Hello.
Hello, everybody. We're here. We're all here. We made it.
We did.
We did.
84 years.
It's been so long.
So just to get everyone all up to speed here, we might have some people popping in. This might be our panel. We don't really know.
We got no idea.
We're just going to have a fun time and see what happens.
This one's going to be this out of the chaos show. This is going to be the most chaotic.
Somehow we just keep upping it every single week. I love that for us personally.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Numbers. You got to bump those up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Speaking of this, I am going to introduce Mr. Adam Collins. How are you?
How are you?
Oh, thank you. I didn't know what adjective I was going to get this week, but the title is acceptable.
Yeah, that is fair.
I accept Mr. I'm not offended by it. Happy to be back after a week off. Let's get into some
Should we
nerd
say
things.
wrestling intro designer extraordinaire?
Oh, well, you
right. Yes. That's now public. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Those are amazing. And you guys have not seen the half of it.
Yeah. We got a lot
amazing.
more people waiting in the wings. We're working up to doing some simulated AI matches, possibly get some special guest commentators. Building this all up probably on Video Drew's network. So more
I obviously have no studying to do, so just please hit me up.
It's going to be a lot. That one, I'm so excited. I am so excited. Jesse, the officially married Jesse and Lauren. Lauren will be
there,
kind of. She will join at some point. But congratulations,
So
your
exciting.
first appearance since the nuptials. How are you feeling?
So good. It's nice that I can put the jackals now and we're not posing. We're just being we've crossed that threshold and now we are the Swifts, and that's pretty fantastic.
I can see that you both survived. You're both here, so that's good. I know stuff can get a bit wild at weddings, but it looks like you both survived.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had pictures to show you guys. We're on like such a wait for the pictures right now, but it was about 8 hours of having a photographer. What? I don't know if they're on the computer though, but yeah, there's a couple. If you scour the internet, you can find a couple. But we got high quality ones incoming, and can't wait to share them. I'm sure probably by the time we're wrapping up the brackets, I'll have a couple to show you.
That sounds about right.
We should start a separate bracket show for Jesse's wedding photos.
We should.
Eliminate
Definitely
them week by week. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're not even like in the grand scheme of things, we're not even that deep into this one. But like I'm already excited and already brainstorming like other brackets that I would think would be.
Oh, I know what the follow up to this is. I already do have the follow up, and it's going to be worse.
It's going to be really bad.
Are you going to surprise us, or are you going to throw in the private chat? I want to know.
I'm going to surprise you. I might tell you a bit later, but not yet. I still need to do some work. I haven't been
one of my wedding gifts. This wasn't here last time.
The flick and reel.
The flick and reel skateboard.
Nice.
That looks awesome.
That looks amazing.
Very nice.
All right. But I'm not burying the lead here. We are joined, spoiler alert, by spoiler, the movie trivia schmodown singles champion of the world, Marisol McKee. Congratulations. And she's on the show with us tonight, so it's very exciting.
She remembered the little people.
Oh my god! These are my homies. I wouldn't be anywhere else.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. This actually is the irony is this week's a chaos week, but it's actually probably the easiest week we've had in a while because a lot of these matchups don't feel very one-sided. Do feel very one-sided. So I reckon we just kick it off. Let's do the first one. We finally have our first wild card. The wild card that made it through. We have Avengers: Infinity War versus The Matrix Reloaded. Marisol, I'm going to start with you.
That's fair. Let's just get this over with because I feel like I'm working.
You're not alone. You're not going to be alone.
Oh, okay. Damn it. So
Am I leaving?
this
for
is
stream?
really, really hard. I actually really wish I wasn't first. This is actually really hard for me. Infinity War is actually the film that impacts me the most. This is going to sound so insane and so crazy, but I feel an emotional impact more when I watch Infinity War than I watch Endgame, because I think that just the bar was just, the stakes just became so real in that film, and it just became so tangible what everybody was fighting for and what was at stake. And it's the most loss you feel in the entire stretch of films up until that point. And it guts you because of how many films have happened since then. So Infinity War actually really it really shakes me. And I feel like it is such an event film. Man, this is actually really hard. On the flip side, I think that The Matrix Reloaded took one of the most ingenious, most iconic and influential, whatever genre you want to name it, action, sci-fi, pick whatever genre you would classify The Matrix, and it's the most influential in that of its genre. And I think Reloaded is a very, very worthy successor. I think it almost in some ways has even in some ways has definitely the 21st century has some of the most iconic action scenes of the 21st century that I think are going to grow with time when people start making the best action lists ever in films, and they're going to talk about the list with the French Connection on it and the Bourne Identity on it, blah, 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 blah. They're going to include scenes from The Matrix Reloaded, because I just think that the choreography, the action choreography is just out of this world and doesn't miss a beat and actually becomes even more complex from the first movie. This is really actually really, really tough because I'm measuring two different things against each other. The score is freaking terrific in both of these films. I do have a soft spot for Don Davis and Juno Reactor in the Matrix movies, but this is actually really hard. I got to pick one. I'm going to pick Matrix Reloaded.
Okay. Adam.
I identify with the struggle because I have a fondness for The Matrix as a series. When those sequels came out, I had so much goodwill towards them. And I know a lot of people don't remember them as fondly, but I went to the midnight premiere of Matrix Reloaded. I was so excited. I'd seen The Matrix countless times leading up to that and was so on board for these sequels. So when I saw Matrix Reloaded, I was so high on it that the flaws didn't... I mean, I saw it in high school too. So I was very forgiving towards this movie. And when I say flaws, I don't think the movie is as flawed as people make it out to be. I think it builds on the mythology in an interesting way. It makes the real world story more tangible than even the first film. And it sets up a lot of interesting questions that Revolutions didn't quite wrap up, but now that we're extending the series with a new movie, I'm hopeful that this new installment might tie things together in an even more interesting way. So I'm very open-minded with the Matrix franchise, and I really enjoy Matrix Reloaded. I'm Mike Kalinowski and Marisol and Jacob will tell you I'm a big fan of the Architect, played by the esteemed Helmut Bakaitis. Helmut Bakaitis. I love that scene, even though it's weird and overly academic. I like it. I like the Architect scene. I don't care what people have to say about it.
I also like the simultaneous cooking show going on right now. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes.
We are very multifaceted show here.
No,
I know. We're party to the silent film version of Swift Home Ec, and I enjoy it. There need to be interspersed title cards or something too. Now with Infinity War, because we're going to keep going in depth about this film, and I know there's people on this panel who can wax poetic about it. I love Infinity War, like many people do. I think it's a great film. I think it's a victim of circumstance for me because it's one of those films that's so oversaturated in the zeitgeist that it's kind of refreshing to go back to a Matrix Reloaded. which is not dissected and talked about day to day like the Marvel movies. So I understand where Marisol's coming from entirely, and I appreciate her vote. To be fair, though, like looking at the scope of both movies and what Infinity War did on a narrative level, what it did historically, and for me personally, the thing about Infinity War that really just stands out for me every time I watch it is Thanos. And I am fascinated with that performance and the characterization of Thanos, and how despite being this big purple alien, he's just so quietly sinister to me, despite being this larger than life character. And that's why I like rewatching that film, is because of the villain. So Infinity War is my vote, but I respect the hell out of Marisol's decision. I like Matrix Reloaded.
We seem to have lost Jesse. So Taylor, I'm going to go to you.
Sure. This one's a pretty easy one for me personally. I think the Matrix movies are very, very good to varying degrees. I don't really go back and visit them very often. That being said, I don't go back and visit Infinity War very often, but it's one of those movie-going experiences that will forever be seared into my brain as just something that I'm probably not going to replicate quite that way ever again. And I do think that for someone who was so invested in the MCU from the very beginning and was very excited to see what it was all going to eventually culminate into, Infinity War was a huge moment that just felt like all those years just were worth it, and felt like they had built towards something that they were actually achieving, which was a staggering achievement. I know that a lot of people have problems with the film, and that's fine. I know the MCU is not for everybody, but to me it felt like they were achieving what they had set out to do and doing it very well. So I'm going to pick Infinity War.
All right. The Swift should be back in just a second, so I'm going to give. Here we go. Never mind.
I
I
think we lost.
In its goal, and I think.
We're losing Jesse. Jesse's
losing.
yep, still cutting in and out.
Write it down.
I think you're good now.
Oh,
Maybe.
maybe.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right, go for it.
No.
Nope. All right.
You're gonna have to.
I just
go.
imagine Coy Jandrews like Electro, and he just goes into people's modems, slows down. It's a Merc's privilege.
All right. So look, the Swifts are voting for Infinity War. So what I'm about to say means absolutely nothing. Means absolutely nothing. But I would vote for Matrix Reloaded. The only reason I say that, look, I adore Infinity War. I think Infinity War is an incredible movie, and I also do think that Infinity War and Matrix Reloaded has a lot of flaws. On a objective scale, Infinity War is the better movie. Objectively speaking, Infinity War is a better movie in terms of what it does and what it's able to do story-wise. That being said, I actually really enjoy Reloaded, and that the highway chase, the freeway chase scene is hands down one of the greatest action scenes we've had in the last decade. The last 20 years, without
Made me look
question.
At seatbelts differently for the rest of my life.
And despite all the hatred it gets, I think that it needed another once over, but the actual architect scene and the scene of what they're trying to do in that scene, I think is a really great subversion, a really amazing subversion of the Chosen One trope. And I think that what the story is trying to do is something that it just doesn't quite nail the execution. It's not making it past this round, so I do want to wax lyrical a little bit about Matrix Reloaded, just because I really do think that it's hurt because Revolutions wasn't able to capitalize on the setup that Reloaded does. And my vote would be for Matrix Reloaded for that reason. But that being said, Avengers Infinity War does move on through to the next round. So we move on to our next matchup. We have Blade Trinity versus Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Adam, do you want to start us off with this one?
Yeah, sure. So Blade Trinity, the movie where they decided to make Wesley Snipes wear sleeves all of a sudden. I don't know why. That was the one. He suddenly had just little sleeves, like down to here. I'm like, that's not Blade. That doesn't feel like Blade to me. It feels like he's a greeter at a store or something. I don't know. Blade Trinity was a very whimpering end to that series. And there are things in it that, are somewhat entertaining. The Vampire Pomeranian comes to mind. A couple other Parker Posey can do no wrong. So I really like her in the movie because I like her in anything, but it's a bad film. Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country is one of my favorite Star Trek movies. It blends the corny and the philosophical perfectly. It's a great swan song for the OG characters. I know Generations was sort of the baton pass, but Undiscovered Country is when they're all together. And it's just such a fun story. It gets deep into politics, which I always like about Star Trek stories. I'm not the biggest hardcore Trek fan in the world, but I really enjoy the original cast movies, those 6 movies, the most. And Undiscovered Country, just like the fact that like we are looking at this cast and they're still interesting and they're still fun and they still have this chemistry. And it's 1991, right? Is when that came out?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so like it's just amazing to look at it in a historical context and realize these characters are still so beloved and still so fun to watch. And Star Trek 6 is definitely my vote. I think it's a really fun movie. And Blade Trinity, I'm glad they could make it like an official trilogy, I guess. So you can buy like a nice little box set now, but it is just it's quite bad. It's quite bad. So yeah, let's move on. I'll yield the floor.
Marisol. Oh, you're muted.
Are we?
Nope, that was me because I'm over here sneezing. It was my sneeze precaution, so I don't audio bomb the stream. Yeah, this is really easy. It's sorry, it's definitely Undiscovered Country. For all the reasons that Adam was saying, for it being I do agree, like about a swan song for the original cast. Really weird to think that they were the same people, like from the 60s are in a movie in the 90s and just like without like missing a beat. It's just indicative of ever 6 movies in that like this is just such a venerable franchise. And it was almost like a welcome back to have it was a good choice to have Nicholas Meyer back again after Wrath of Khan. And I think even kind of like a different story with kind of like the murder suspect plot angle. I just think there's never a shortage of stories you can tell with Star Trek, and it still hadn't lost steam 6 movies in, for sure. And Blade Trinity has a distinction of being the worst one of the 3. The one where just the movie wasn't really about Blade because they were shoehorning in other characters because they were really starting. They were like, you know who we need? Van Wilder in this. Am I right? And I just, and they needed a vehicle for Jessica Biel, and Blade is more neutered in this one. But the only really good thing I will say, Blade had always kind of been struggling, especially in Blade 2. I think the line between corny and cool really started to get really finely straddled, even though I love Del Toro. But it just went firmly more into corny with Blade Trinity. And there's one, I won't say it here, but one of the perks, one of the most memorable things, for better or for worse, from Blade Trinity is there's an insult that Ryan Reynolds says to Parker Posey in that movie. And it's just like one of the most it's one of the most hardcore insults I've ever heard in a movie. And I'm not going to repeat it here, but maybe somebody can track it down on YouTube. And people who've seen it probably know what I'm referring to. That's it. That's the best thing I'll say about Blade Trinity. Definitely undiscovered country.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add. I have fun with Undiscovered Country. I don't really have too many problems with any of the Star Trek movies, really. I usually find something fun or interesting to appreciate about them. I think the Undiscovered Country is great for a lot of reasons. But we can get into that later because I think it's going to survive at this point. I'm pretty sure, and I have nothing to say about Blade Trinity. So, what are your thoughts, Jake?
Neither does Jessica Biel.
Honestly, I'm the same, and the Swifts also say Undiscovered Country. And that they loved it, and they have an inexplicable fondness for Trinity, but mostly because of Ryan Reynolds, which fair enough. And with that, Undiscovered Country makes it through. I'm
that dog.
Yeah, we're not wasting time if we don't have to. So
just keep it rolling.
We already started late. Let's just go through these ones that we don't actually want to have a discussion about. Thor Ragnarok versus R.I.P.D. Taylor.
So I'm fairly confident that despite never having seen R.I.P.D., that I don't need to know anything else about what I'm voting for here. I've seen the trailer for R.I.P.D. That's about all I got there. But honestly, Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite MCU films. I have so much fun with it. I enjoy the humor in it. I really like the vibrance of a lot of it. I like how dramatic a lot of it is. Like one thing that always sticks out in my mind is the Valkyrie painting almost that you get in the film, where it's just this huge dramatic scene. You get Goldblum doing Goldbloomy things, which is always fascinating to see. I think he fits into this world really well. We get a lot of Loki in this movie, which is literally all I need ever, and I'm in. I love Thor Ragnarok a lot. It was so vastly different from what we got from Dark World, and I think there's a lot to appreciate about Dark World, not necessarily how it was executed, but a lot of the things that they were trying to do and what you actually get out of that movie. But Thor Ragnarok, to me, was just so what I was not expecting to get from what we had gotten based on the previous Thor films. And I like revisiting that movie a lot. Tessa Thompson, hello. Like, do I need to say anything else like that? We want to talk about moisture. That whole movie is just like, bam, done.
Yeah.
Done.
Marisol?
I appreciate all of that. I'm not as high on Thor Ragnarok. I think it's just different expectations. You know, there's a part in like Avengers where like Tony makes fun of Thor, and he says like makes like a Shakespeare in the Park joke or something like that, and he's like, "Doth mother knoweth you're wearing her drapes," or something like that. And I always laughed so hard about that because I thought like Thor, I was like, that is Thor. Thor is very Shakespearean and self-serious and all that stuff. And it sounds kind of crazy, I know, but like I kind of like that about Thor, that's kind of the angle that I like. Like I like when he mildly like kind of pokes fun, and his angle or his dynamic with the Avengers, where they poke fun at how inflated he is and how self-serious he is and how uber Shakespearean the whole thing is. So I had like kind of like a shock with Ragnarok. I love Taika Waititi, but it was such a tonal shift for me that to see Thor in a story like that. I think that I reacted kind of differently to other people. Thor Ragnarok is still a lot of fun, and it's miles. It doesn't matter because it's a billion miles ahead of the piece of trash that is R.I.P.D. that just thought it wanted so hard to just be. It's like it's R.I.P.D. makes all the Men in Black sequels, even the bad ones, look like Oscar-winning material because R.I.P.D. just completely incompetent. It's such a tired, lazy attempt to cash in on so many familiar, already done things in better films, particularly the Men in Black series. But it doesn't matter. I still hear everything you're saying about Thor Ragnarok, and it definitely beats R.I.P.D. That was just me sharing my little feelings about Ragnarok for a second that don't matter because I still want it to win. I still like it miles more than R.I.P.D. So go Thor. And Cate Blanchett, and you want to talk about moisture, just Cate Blanchett in that film is just I don't care what you're into. It doesn't matter what you're into Cate Blanchett.
What's this?
A wild Parker has appeared.
Hey, Parker, check it out. Check it out.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Mike. I am very sorry for being so late and for interrupting.
That's fine.
No.
That's fine. I mean, Infinity War was nearly eliminated by Matrix Reloaded, but
That's disappointing.
So
That's the hat's only because I'm having a bad hair day. So that's it's as you do.
That's fair. All right, Robert.
You're just jumping.
Yeah,
right in.
jumping.
Sure, you're right in.
Hello, I'll jump right in. Thor Ragnarok is R.I.P.D. is a piece of shit. Next.
Fair enough. Adam.
I like the Indian food joke. That's kind of cute in R.I.P.D. We affectionately refer to it in Corruption as ripped. But it's bad. It's bad. I honestly I don't hate the idea of mixing Beetlejuice and Men in Black. That's a good quick pitch for a movie. And I wouldn't hate seeing a soft little low budget reboot of this IP someday that's rated R, with actors who actually care. But Thor Ragnarok, when it came out, was such a pleasant surprise. I think a lot of folks had grown a little tired of the traditional Thor formula at that point. Dark World was so dour and not in an interesting way. And when Ragnarok came around, I agree with Marisol. It was this huge pendulum swing. So it was kind of a shock to the system. Worked for me mostly just because I enjoyed the combination of Waititi's sensibilities, Hemsworth's knack for comedic timing, and I don't want it to get too gimmicky going forward. So I'm very interested to see how Love and Thunder plays out. I'd like to see the story keep moving forward in an interesting way because I felt like Ragnarok was originally intended as this end cap to Thor's main story, but because it was so well received, we're now getting Thor 4, and I'm very excited to see the film. Don't get me wrong, but the thing that always bothered me about Ragnarok was the killing off of all of the warriors. I especially early on when she first crosses in and takes out two of them right away. That bothered me because we've spent a couple movies with those characters, and I'm excited to see Sif come back in some capacity, but it's frustrating because they were killed off in a way that seemed like they were trying to trim the fat. And as much as I like Thor Ragnarok, I felt like those characters deserved more. So that is my big nitpick with Thor Ragnarok, despite the fact that it's a lot of fun to watch that movie. And R.I.P.D.'s back.
All right. Well, with that, Thor Ragnarok makes it through to the next round. All righty.
What do we got?
Next up, Conan the Destroyer versus Tim Burton's
Lord.
Planet of the Apes.
I like this.
Adam, I'm
I'm
going
gonna
to let
go.
you. Oh, Adam, I'm going to let you start because I know how much you like this movie.
Which one? No. No, this is fun because I'd love to see where these land relative to each other on Rotten Tomatoes. I bet they're close. You might want to look into that and let me know if I'm right. I have no idea. But Conan the Destroyer, a little bit of nostalgia at work, admittedly, on my part. I am fond of these movies. I'm one of the people saying Beastmaster and Masters of the Universe should be an IG. And when they do eventually end up in there, Robert, don't yell at me. But
Let's take it one week at a time. Today, if you knew what I've been watching today and yesterday, whew.
Well, I know it doesn't get any easier. It doesn't get any easier. But Conan the Destroyer is fun because Conan the Barbarian is such a hard R. And Destroyer is like, it is cheesy by comparison, and it's more for the kids. But at that point, Conan was becoming a more marketable, character. He eventually ended up with an animated series in the 90s that was very, very popular. I remember watching that. And that's what that cartoon is what got me into these movies. So when I watched the Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer, I really enjoyed them. I had a lot of goodwill. I recently rewatched Conan the Destroyer. It was on I was at a hotel and I turned to TV and it happened to be on. And I had fun rewatching it, but good God, like all the ADR and stilted dialogue and stuff. But it's still a lot of fun to watch. Planet of the Apes, honestly, and I know this is what everyone says, like, it did deserve all the attention it got from makeup. And as much as I love the very impressive CGI in the new trilogy of Apes films, I still think nothing can quite compare to the practical effects in Burton's version. Because I feel like that is a great halfway point between the original movies, where the mouths barely moved as the sequels went on because the budget got lower, and then the new CG that's more lifelike. I really like all the creature effects in that film, but the script is bad. Mark Wahlberg seems very confused, not quite happening confused, but very confused the whole movie. And don't like the punchline at the end. I think it's dumb. So I vote for Conan the Destroyer, and I would love to see it move forward and fight another day.
All right, Robert, you where would you like to go with this one?
I mean, both of these are pretty rough, but I think Adam hit the nail on the head with the ape stuff. I'm a huge Apes apologist. Even the bad 70s ones, I still really enjoy watching, and that's because of the irreverence and the respect that I have for the creature effects and for the actors who are really trying. And say what you will, Paul Giamatti knows what movie he's in. He knows exactly what movie he's in Apes 01. And with Conan the Destroyer, I think if that was made in 2010, it would have had a decent budget and good visual effects, and it just looks terrible. It is an incompetently put together movie from 1984. And Apes, say what you will, it is a really terrible story and the script is bad, but the visuals look right and they look good, and it's more fun of a watch than Conan the Destroyer. So I would rather put in Planet of the Apes right now. So I'm gonna go for that.
Gasp.
All right. Marisol.
Yeah, you guys are really, I thought, you guys are really hitting the nail on the head. Even more so because I haven't seen Conan the Destroyer. But I guess so.
Adam is devastated right now.
I do. I can't say no to Grace Jones. There is a lot of moisture points with Grace Jones. But
that is true.
And Doug Will Chamberlain.
If anything,
I won't argue that. Yeah. But yeah, you guys are spot on about that. Like Apes, the 2001 Apes, I think maybe gets a really, really, really crappy reputation because it just lives in the shadow of the original. And Estella Warren is the most non-acting actress to ever actress, but yeah, like you're engaged and you're engaged in the film because the performers, Bonham Carter, Tim Roth, Giamatti, everybody is going for it, and they're there, and like you said, Adam, the wizardry is impressive and special and worth celebrating in its own right, but like the combination of the advanced makeup and really getting these performers to pull out there, like it's yes, I agree with everything they're saying, and I'm going to vote for Planet of the Apes, and I'm going to vote for it because I feel that way, and even more so just because I just haven't seen Conan the Destroyer.
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen Conan the Destroyer either. I've seen bits and pieces.
Where is your culture, people? Come on.
I've seen bits and pieces of Planet of the Apes. I feel very undereducated trying to speak about either of these movies. But for no reason at all, I'm just going to go with Planet of the Apes.
That's fair. The Swifts have also voted for Planet of the Apes.
What's your vote, sir?
I'd vote Conan because both of these movies are really bad, and one has Arnie in it, and the other. One of them is a bad Burton movie, and one is a bad Arnie movie.
All right.
I'd rather a bad Arnie movie.
Conan's entire plot, it revolves around a virgin who's so hot for Arnie. He's just so attractive that she has to lose her virginity to it. That's the entire plot of Conan the Destroyer. It's rough.
But he's kind of oblivious to it most of the movie, and he's more interested in fighting Andre the Giant dressed like an alligator, and Wilt Chamberlain has like one of the coolest names in all of IG. His name's Bombada, and I just
yeah, I like I said, like a bad Tim Burton movie just breaks my heart. And so I'm gonna vote for Conan, even though Planet of the Apes 2001 does make it through. All right, next up we have
for you, Bombada.
The Lone Ranger versus the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Okay.
Robert, I'm going to let you go.
I mean, I think The Lone Ranger is pretty crap, and I think Narnia is pretty good. Obviously, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, one of the first movies that I remember seeing like more than once in the theater. Like I'm pretty sure I saw like some animated movies when I was like a younger kid in the theater, but like I remember seeing Narnia like 6 or 7 times in the theater. Like my parents just dropped me and my sister off, and we just watched that movie, that 2.5 hour movie. We just watched that till the cows came home. Like and the Narnia books are something that I'm really close to. Like I think that it's like the epitome of a perfect fantasy movie. Like everybody is working, like the effects hold up. Everything in the first Narnia movie is like genuinely still really incredible. And Lone Ranger is 2 hours and 40 minutes of Johnny Depp pretending to be Native American. And it's real rough and it's real bad. And it's Gore Verbinski at his worst. And the first Narnia is just like damn near a perfect fantasy movie. So yeah, definitely Narnia 1.
Okay, I'm just very quickly going to jump in. I will say I am definitely voting for the first Narnia movie because it is I think it manages to capture the spirit of the book well enough that I think the sequels start to lose. And I also think that the first one is able to actually capture the magic and make it feel magical compared to some of the other ones that lose a lot of that element. That being said, I do want to give Lone Ranger the smallest bit of credit because that third act is so much fun. Like I like the third act on the train with the horse that goes for 45 minutes, and it's way too long. Like way too long. Yeah. But it's fun. Like it's dumb, but I have fun with the last 45 minutes. The 2.5 hours getting to the last 45 minutes are just cut that movie down to like 10 minutes. But the last 45 minutes is a lot of fun. So I will vote Narnia, but Lone Ranger is not the worst movie on this bracket, despite its reputation.
No, it's not.
Tell.
Yeah. So Lone Ranger is definitely not the worst movie that I've had to watch for this particular group of films. But yeah, like I think it's fine. Like there are parts of it that are kind of entertaining, but it's like the excitement that I feel like I should get out of it a lot of the time just isn't there. It feels very long at certain points. And The Lion, Legend, and the Wardrobe is one of those films, when I think back, it's one of those first films that like really stuck with me. Like it's just one of the ones that I always remember going to see. I remember being so enchanted by the way they brought the world to life. I remember really enjoying the casting and how well it really felt like everything fit together. And it just felt like a fun movie that you could tell that the right people were making it because it was magical and it was fun. And you really got a sense of who the characters were. And it was just really well put together. And it's a movie that just really has stuck with me for a long time as just being like, yeah, I remember really having a great time with it. I remember things about it that have just stuck with me. Like my memory is not particularly great with small details if I haven't seen a movie in a long time, but that movie has just kind of stuck with me. So I'm gonna vote for some Tilda Swinton, James McAvoy action.
Fair. Marisol.
Yeah, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe has the kind of feelings. It was one of the first follow-ups, besides maybe like a series of unfortunate events. It was one of the first like big franchises after Harry Potter to be like, can we do it too? You know, and they put all the money in it. They put all the resources and the money into it to put the best forward they could. It's not some shoddy, like a lot of the shoddier attempts that we would see later in the 2000s and like the early 2010s. It was like a big deal. I remember when the Chronicles of Narnia came out. And I think similar to the first Harry Potter film, I think it does a great job of setting up that world and really bringing it just vividly to life. I think there is a lot. I haven't revisited the movie in a while, but there is a lot of wonder, and it's completely immersive. Tilda Swinton is terrific, freaking terrific as the Ice Queen, and you could not find a better voice to be Aslan than Liam Neeson, and it doesn't shy away from everything. There's a lot of heavy themes and mature stuff. There always has been in those C.S. Lewis books, and they don't shy away from it. And I really appreciate that. And it's just vividly, it's just a gorgeous film. And it's a gorgeous world realized. I do like Prince Caspian. I think Prince Caspian takes it, evolves it a little bit further, gets a little bit deeper in it. But Chronicles of Narnia is a great setup to start the series off. Very, very respectable setup. Definitely holds up. And I want to see it move forward. Lone Ranger is sadly just overblown. It's tragically just a textbook, Bruckheimer production. And just way too long. It just feels you can't shit where it's just too close to home. And I think teaming up Bruckheimer and Verbinski again, right on the heels of like a few years after the Pirates trilogy, they had wrapped up together. The Pirates trilogy was not, it's hard to separate the two. And you even have the star of the Pirates trilogy in your Lone Ranger movie. It's just, they're trying so hard to channel that, and you feel that. And it's just, there's so many things between all the, like the slow-mo and the just almost like some of the action almost kind of feels, I want to say, not just the way that it's filmed almost feels like anachronistic. But it just feels like you're trying to push. I just really, really wish instead of Verbinski, they had hired Joe Johnston or Martin Campbell, somebody who really has gotten somebody who would be such a better fit for that this kind of hero and this kind of story. And I think you would have seen a drastically different film. I think Verbinski still like, I'll just do what I did in Pirates, and I think the film suffers because of that. Don't think it's absolutely terrible. I really don't. It's watchable. It just overstates its welcome so clearly. And yeah, when you measure those two together, definitely Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe for all the reasons I said.
Adam?
Yeah, so Lone Ranger is interesting because to me that's like there's two modern cannibal westerns. There's the Lone Ranger and Bone Tomahawk. And I just think when I finally caught up with the Lone Ranger, I was watching it, and then just like the happy-go-lucky energy of that final act with William Tell playing over and over and over again, and him riding a goddamn horse across the train. And I'm just like, I just imagine that train going by the characters in Bone Tomahawk and them just sitting there in misery, like no spoilers. But that movie's, you know, those guys go through a time. And I just imagine that train zooming by and them just being like, wish I was in that cannibal movie, you know? I agree. If you shrunk down Lone Ranger, it would be okay. There are parts that made me laugh in that movie, but they were few and far between. All the stuff that was funny about Johnny Depp's portrayal is the same stuff that's funny when he plays Jack Sparrow, but it's also just racially insensitive, weird, awkward. And the thing is, like, him in the war paint the whole movie, you can kind of try and suspend your disbelief, but then they have this freaking story, this bookend story that they keep coming back to where he's in this really off-putting makeup. This aging makeup where they go out of their way to make him look native, and it's just...
They like call him a savage too, and like when he's in the film, like it's real rough.
and they just emphasize all the wrong things that they don't need to, that are already awkward about him playing the role. So that's all really unfortunate. Armie Hammer's fine. William Fichtner eats a heart. Spoiler alert. But it's long and exhausting. And then so Chronicles of Narnia. When Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe came out, I was very excited because being a big fan of Lord of the Rings, you know, being a fan of literature, Tolkien and Lewis being contemporaries of each other, there's a lot of synergy between those stories, even though they have different themes. And Lewis is obviously a very religious writer. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I think those themes can translate beyond his personal inspiration. I think the themes in the original film are very transcendent in a lot of ways. I think it's a fun film. I think it's also a great gateway film for a younger audience for fantasy. And I know Harry Potter is the go-to for that. And of course, as it should be, it's good stuff. It's a lot of fun. But I think Narnia is cool as a complement to that because it is based on such classic, modern, but classic, the same literature. And I think it's a solid adaptation. I don't have the fondness for the Narnia films that a lot of people do, but I respect the way they're made. And I also respect that Andrew Adamson, the director, was able to transition from the Shrek movies to doing this. You don't always see people land on their feet from animation to live action. So in any case, I vote for Narnia, but I just wanted to get into the weeds there with Lone Ranger for a second, because I'm not going to say it's worth watching, but having watched it, there are things I'll never forget.
That is a great way to put
That's
that.
actually, yeah. All right, let's move on to our next one.
All right, what do we got?
So Narnia moves on, obviously.
What?
And the Swifts voted for Narnia.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
What's next?
Star Wars: The Force Awakens versus Predator 2. Taylor, I'm going to start with you.
Great. Okay. So this is an interesting one for me. Predator 2 has some memorable things in it. I don't think that it's the Predator movie that I would put on were I to choose to watch one, but it's also not terrible. So it's got that going for it. However, when The Force Awakens came out, I was like the worst kind of Star Wars shill you've ever seen in your life. I was like, Star Wars is back. I remember seeing the prequels in the movie, like in the movie theater when I was a kid, and like I didn't know if we were ever going to get any more of them, and we have one, and this is like the best thing that's ever happened in my life. And I do really actually enjoy The Force Awakens for what it is. I think there are some things that definitely could have been done a bit differently now that we can look back on the trilogy as a whole. But at the time, I think it did what J.J. Abrams, in my opinion, does best out of anything, which is he can bring a property that people are familiar with to a general audience and kind of revive it and refresh it and get people interested in it that weren't there before. I think he managed to do the same thing with Star Trek 09. And I think that's what he does best. I think he's good at that. Everything else I would like him to stop putting his hands on, personally. But I think The Force Awakens brought Star Wars back to a general audience, gave us new characters that a lot of people were pretty much immediately interested in and wanted to see more from. You got the feeling that you were in that Star Wars world, and it just kind of brought you back. You felt like you were back in it, ready to go on a new adventure in a place that you were probably familiar with. Most people, I would say, went into it at least knowing something about Star Wars. And I think it accomplished what it set out to do. Looking back on it, I try not to judge it that way, because I do think as its own film, it's very, very enjoyable. And I like the decisions that were made for the most part. So I'm going to vote for Force Awakens.
I am just going to very quickly bounce off something you said. I think J.J. Abrams, his best films are the ones that are essentially 2-hour-long pilots. Essentially. Because that is what he is best at. He is great at doing a pilot episode. And that's essentially what Force Awakens and Star Trek 09 are. They're essentially the pilot episode of a new series. And I think that Force Awakens had two jobs. Had one job going into this. Two jobs going into this movie. Make it feel like Star Wars again. Make audiences love Star Wars again. And two, give audiences new characters that they can fall in love with. And I think that is exactly what this movie does. Predator 2 misses the point of the first Predator film. And just doesn't quite work for me as well as something like Predators does. So with that, I'm going to vote Star Wars Force Awakens. Adam.
Yeah, so the only like reason Predator 2 is not ranked lower for me is the fondness for the franchise, especially back then. One of my favorite comic crossovers, and I apologize if I mentioned this on an episode previously, but Batman versus Predator, great comic book, really, really great. That was my gateway to the Predator franchise. A friend on my school bus had the Batman versus Predator comic, and Predator really gave Batman the business in that book. It was such a cool fight. The way they thought it out, the way the characters strategize against each other, it was brilliant. And it made me seek out the movies. So I kind of went into the Predator franchise thinking of them as sort of this anthology where Predators would just end up in different places and we would see these scenarios play out. So when I saw Predator 2, even though I didn't like it as much as the original, and I still don't, I was forgiving towards it for the premise. It felt like an episode in a series where we saw Predator land, in the city, and it plays out. And the movie doesn't age particularly well, but the reason I still have fun watching it is because of the mayhem, because of the cast. It has all the usual suspects from that era of action franchises: Paxton, Busey, Glover himself. So I have a lot of fondness for that era of filmmaking, which is why the movie is not a complete wash for me. But The Force Awakens, I can't overstate the excitement I had for that movie, not because I anticipated it to be the best movie ever, but because the mystery of Star Wars was back, the anticipation was back. And when the movie came out, it raised a lot of interesting questions. To your point, Jacob, it was a great setup for this series, and we can debate that what that trilogy became all day long. But if you look at just Force Awakens, it does a great job of setting up very likable characters, setting up a mysterious fate for beloved characters, and it caused all this fun schoolyard speculation that we had been missing for years from Star Wars. And I think it's a very special movie, and people can say, you know, it has all these too much similarity to A New Hope, but for me, I think it's a very well-made film with very fun characters, very memorable set pieces, and for my money, I would love to see a Predator fight a Rathtar. But I would vote for The Force Awakens.
Parker.
Yeah, Force Awakens is like in my top most important movies to me, like all time. Like I worked at a movie theater when that movie came out. I was in high school. Like it was just like a monumentally important film for me. And like Adam said, you can say what you want about the way that series played out. The setup that was done in Force Awakens was genuinely incredible. I don't care how similar it was to New Hope. Like the characters it set up, the conflicts it set up, the story it set up was impeccable. Like it probably is my favorite Star Wars movie, and I know that's like a little bit of a hot take. Like I love the original trilogy, but the way that people in the 80s felt about the original trilogy is the way that I feel about Force Awakens. It just is that important to me. It's that special to me. That movie's like a warm blanket. I have seen it dozens of times. Like Force Awakens just is my Star Wars. Whereas Predator 2 is like one of the most forgettable, edgy movies that there is. It's fine. It's okay. But Force Awakens is just eons better than almost anything that's going to be in this bracket for me. So Force Awakens for sure.
All right, Marisol.
Yeah. The problem with Predator 2 is a conceit. Like it's just I've just always fundamentally had a problem with that movie because I'm just like, why is Predator in the city? I'm just like, yeah, like.
And why is that city Los Angeles?
Why is it LA? Like why is it LA? And I'm just like, this is just, and why does he just kind of like hang around, peeking around corners, watching people do shit for like most of the movie, like until he decides to, like, why is he like, it just doesn't work. Like, I just think I've never really liked this movie, and I think it's very messy and pretty ugly and pretty messy. It was down there in the whole Alien and Predator lore. It was pretty low near the bottom until the AVPs came out. Well, then of course it's not the worst Predator movie specifically. Thanks, 2018. But it is. It's just it's struggle is in just the general. I just have so many problems with just the general story of it. Predator should be out in the wild. There could be a really interesting story where you throw there could be an interesting premise where you throw Predator into an urban environment, but it wasn't very clear in this one. It doesn't make sense how you come down from space to hang out because he sees a lot of like gangs fighting in LA. It's just like, why would it?
But Marisol, it's a heat wave. It's so hot that you can live there. It's a heat wave.
That's right.
It's the do the right thing of Predator movies, right?
LA is it's a boiler. It's a boilerplate of like racial tension and drug wars. I get it.
Handled so deftly by Stephen Hopkins. I mean,
but that's a silly thing too about the movie, is that it's like trying to also like just what you're saying. Like it's so of the times. It's so early '90s that they're like trying to throw in like such current events into the film and have that be like the blueprint for the film. I'm just like, I just like no. But it doesn't matter. My Predator 2 rant is over. Even Danny Glover, Danny Glover, you want to talk about too old for this shit? Danny Glover is like, what the fuck is going on? This whole he is so. He has enough problems with dealing with human beings. Once a Predator came through, Danny Glover was over it. He's like, I'm out. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. But
to be fair, I feel like whatever his character was making in that movie, the amount of salary he was making, he would have to be like, absolutely not.
I don't believe that he was a detective in downtown LA in 1997.
No, he was making $3. Okay, no way.
Yeah.
Every movie pre-2000s that Glover was in, I envision him in suspenders. I can't help it.
But as you've said, Gary Busey does pop in and just be ridiculously Gary Busey, so there's entertainment value in there. Bill Paxton dies way too early, but gets in some good lines. But yeah, everything that you're saying about Force Awakens was such a return to form for Star Wars and was a big deal. And I remember getting goosebumps when I was seeing the teaser trailer for it, and I was so excited for it. And everything you said,
2 a.m. in the morning for that teaser.
There you go. Everything you were saying, Taylor, and about J.J. Abrams does know how to catch what is special, the same way he did with Star Trek. He does know how to catch what's special, bring it and throw that all in the mix and revitalize it for a whole new generation of fans. He does a great job with that. Definitely Force Awakens. It like many of you said, it revitalized a lot of affection for the Star Wars series and for the characters, and it was a really exciting jumping off point.
All right. Well, with that, Force Awakens makes it through. All righty.
Oh, no.
Next up.
Oh, great.
Alien versus Predator versus the Spirit.
What? I just got it. I thought this was a three-way for a second.
No. It's the movie
Alien
it's
1979's Alien, 1987's Predator, and the Spirit.
I'm not gonna lie. There is a part of me that's slightly disappointed that I never actually that wasn't a matchup. That Alien versus Predator was never a matchup. But anyway, Robert, I'm gonna start with you.
The Spirit is one of the worst films I've ever seen. I don't watch it for my health. And I've seen it more than once. It is a rough one. I've never seen somebody stamp out all of the goodwill that they had earned quicker than Frank Miller after making Sin City. They just saw, oh man, Sin City was real good. Let's do it again, but shitty. And that's what happened with the Spirit. The Spirit is there's Sam Jackson with little feet minion. It's just so bad. And I like Gabrielle Mock. I like Suits, and I like Eva Mendes, obviously. Who wouldn't? And there's a lot of good actors and actresses in Spirit. But Alien vs. Predator is not a movie that's very good, but I am a sucker for a good Alien movie. I really like the Alien franchise, even the shitty ones, even Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. I'll watch the hell out of those movies. I love watching Acid Blood. I love watching Predators. I love watching Alien Queens. Xenomorphs are just a guilty pleasure for me. I love watching them wreak havoc. So I'd much rather watch Alien vs. Predator than the Spirit. Neither of them are great, but man, how much more can you ask for than a group of adventurers coming across some xenomorphs? That's all you need. That's all you need in a movie. And that's Alien versus Predator. So for sure.
Adam.
Thanks for this. Alien versus Predator, speaking going back to that Batman versus Predator comic book, Alien versus Predator was such a huge thing in the 90s. It was the comic books were one thing. There were all these video games that came before the movie as well. And so there's just such a tremendous buildup. It was such a natural pairing ever since Predator 2 set it up with the little Easter egg at the end. People were really into this idea, as they should be. So when AVP finally came around, it was kind of too little too late. For me as a horror fan, Freddy versus Jason is a way better delivery of a promise. Like, that movie holds up. It's very entertaining. I know this isn't the horror bracket, but forgive me for a second. It's a comparable situation because Freddy versus Jason was these two franchises colliding after years of anticipation. And that movie is very dumb to people like who aren't like into those franchises, I'm sure. But the movie is pretty fun to watch, and it knows what it is. AVP is trying to have it both ways. It is fun with the action scenes and stuff, but these people keep getting in the way. And with the exception of Sanaa Lathan and Lance Henriksen, I don't give a shit about any of them. And Lance Henriksen's not in it for long. And I don't like the character he's playing. I just like him as an actor. I'm just glad he's in the movie for like 5 seconds. But like I like all the imagery of it. Like I like the underground pyramid, you know, the Antarctica setting. As a fan of The Thing, I was buying into right from the start. But the plot isn't very interesting. It's if you just watch it as a movie for aliens and predators to fight each other, it delivers on that. But given all the source material that they built up for a decade, they had so much to mine from. They could have made it a lot more interesting. And then Requiem really drove it into the ground. So, you know, it's not a great film by any means, but I got jack shit to say about The Spirit. So, you know, the octopus, Gabriel Mock, Sarah Paulson's hanging out in that for a minute. God bless her. She was building up her career early, but it's bad, man. It's bad. And it's technically based on a comic book. So it's never going to go away in the Schmodown. But it's
Shame.
It's trash. So I vote AVP this one time.
Marisol.
Yeah, The Spirit has not an ounce of the menace or the swagger that Sin City has. And well, one's rated R, one's rated PG-13. That's probably has a little bit to do with it. But also just, yeah, what I think one of you has said, like Frank Miller's like, he watched Rodriguez do some stuff in Sin City and he was like, oh, cool, I could do that. Let me try it. And he's just too close. He's too close to his material. He wouldn't know how. It's just too thick. Like it's just too. It needed some more room to breathe. It needed somebody to, like Rodriguez did. It needed somebody
a better story producer.
Yeah, exactly. It needed somebody to be like, that line's really, really corny. Do not say that there, or that doesn't flow, or like there's no emotion here. This is sterile. Like there's no, and not even like this isn't even cool, and like you're not even feeling it in like a noir kind of way. It's just sterile. And even though the cast is trying, like you said, like but yeah, it's so zany, and it's really hard to take seriously when Samuel L. Jackson, like, you think he's over the top and silly in The Kingsman. I just like
It's
got nothing on Samuel L. Jackson dressed up as a Nazi in The Spirit. like nothing on that. It's so weird to see. But yeah, and Alien versus Predator is has got some fun ideas and has a lot of goodwill in the first half, and then the second half you're just like, oh right, this is a movie directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. And I do love Sanaa Lathan in the role. I love her as the star of that film. That's the most interesting aspect of, like, what if Predators kind of like accepted a human, you know, like what if, like, I think that is an interesting angle. I do like that. Like, what if, you know, what if one kind of like earned their way? Because like Predators are like, frankly, we got bigger problems with all these goddamn aliens. But I like that, and like Adam was saying, like the lore, like it is cool diving into that world. Kind of echoes it, kind of mind. I had never read Alien versus Predator and all that source material he's talking about, but that kind of works the same way Prometheus works, and really digging into like the history of the origins of these monsters, these creatures. You know, it's rewatchable. Alien versus Predator, not amazing, but it's definitely rewatchable. And even with that kind of like middling recommendation, way better than The Spirit.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Tell.
Yeah, so I don't think either of these movies are particularly good, but I do think Alien vs. Predator has memorable moments, at least for me. Like, to me, having the movie be like, you know what? We're just going to drop these people into the worst, like, Halloween maze you could possibly imagine, where they're in a pyramid, where every 10 minutes, like, everything shifts and you don't know if you're going to be stuck in this room with a predator or, like, what the hell you're dealing with. Like, you don't know, like, how you're going to get out of these compartments and, like, when things are going to shift. And it's pretty, like, there's some pretty, like, gruesome death things that happen in this movie in particular, which I give them props for. Like, at least they're doing it. At least they're going for it with that. And you know, there's enough of it that, like, to me at least, like, they took some swings, even if it doesn't always work. And also, to me, like, a bad movie with aliens and predators in it, like, I will probably enjoy more than bad movies that don't have aliens and predators in it. So I'm going with Alien versus Predator.
All right. Well,
I just
with
have
that,
to say, real quick, sorry. I was running around multitasking, but I was listening. And I just have to say, Taylor, you reminded me it rips off the movie Cube as well. If you haven't heard of that, if you haven't heard of that movie, I recently finally saw Cube, and yeah, I forgot that AVP rips that off. So thank you for that.
Love that.
yeah. All right. This one should be fairly quick and easy to get over and done with.
You would hope.
I swear to Christ, I think we will lose a lot of our audience if this one's not fairly quick and easy. Fanfic versus Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Robert, I'm going to start with you.
Wrath of Khan is fantastic, and not just like a lot of people, especially people my age, like can't usually settle into, you know, people genuinely, you know, general movie fans can't really settle into like older films with slower paces like Wrath of Khan. But the cat and mouse game is just so intriguing. It's just so good. Ricardo Montalban fucking brings it in every fucking scene he's in. Wrath of Khan is so good. Even if the visual effects don't hold up, just the story and the dialogue, it's just so good. Fanfic is a great 45-minute film. Like great. Like genuinely great. And then the next 45 minutes are atrocious and hard. And sky beams and Doctor Doom looking like a fucking Blue Man Group, like just terrible shit. The first half of Fanfic is like Johnny street racing and Kate Mara, like she's really great, and like the first half of Fanfic is wonderful, and then you get the whole thing that says 5 years later, and it's just atrocious. It's horrid. Wrath of Khan is just a staple of sci-fi. It's a staple of storytelling, really. So for sure, Wrath of Khan.
I have a feeling Jesse is about to expose himself and be kicked off this panel very, very quickly. But no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Jesse. There's nothing you can say that would get you kicked off this channel. Marisol, you're next.
Yeah. This is so easy. Mine's very quick. I just wish
yesterday, Jesse. Sorry.
I just wish that when I think about movies like Wrath of Khan, I just wish that makes me just wish that I had been alive and of movie watching age in the early 80s. So I could have experienced so many films and have them like hit and been there for the impact of things like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Back to the Future. And Wrath of Khan is one of those movies that I was just like, that was probably just so, especially after the first Star Trek was like, like I just knew this would have been so, this was just like such a hit and so exciting, and I really wish I had been there to experience Wrath of Khan. It's not even close. Wrath of Khan.
Adam.
You know, I'm in the business of self-owning, so it's only appropriate that I'm sitting here in my Sally Carrera shirt while I'm about to talk about the esteemed Justin Trank film, Fantastic Four. No, in all seriousness, when I messed up that question in that match, I remember afterwards, you know, it was just it was a trick of the brain. They brought up Justin Timberlake early in the match, and my brain betrayed me, and I wrote a different name. But I remember distinctly reading Josh Trank's Letterboxd review of his own film. It's amazing. It's amazing. You guys, like, if anyone hasn't read Josh Trank's review of his own Fantastic Four film, you definitely need to check it out. That said, this movie is just, it's a warning to filmmakers everywhere. It's the worst case scenario situation, and when you watch it, you're just watching tragedy unfold, because you see a fairly cohesive narrative for the first, I'd say, 30 minutes. I think Robert was being generous with 45, and it just really goes off the rails quick. As soon as Reggie Cathy exits stage right, so do I. Like, I'm just like, screw this movie. It's their take on Doom sucks. Like, say what you want about the Tim Story movies, but at least Doctor Doom looks like Doctor Doom. What the hell was going on? Like, between that version of Doom, Jamie Foxx's Electro, I'm like, look, Doc Manhattan already exists. Back off. Like, it's a thing. Like, he already exists. Like, go away. Like, I want to see, I know we're not talking about Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I'm just saying, like, I want to see the classic Electro with the pointy mask and everything, and the green costume with the spandex. But anyway, Fantastic Four, not good. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan is so great. I expect it to go through a few rounds. I would like to think it would. My entry point to this was my older brother's novelization that was in our room. I remember leafing through that sometimes and not knowing what the hell it was about, because I didn't know what Star Trek was yet. But I remember just reading these out of context chapters of the novelization of Wrath of Khan, and then eventually seeing the movie and seeing it all come together, and just my mind being blown. And then seeking out the original episode of the original series where Khan was introduced with a young Ricardo Montalban. It's just, it's a great sci-fi adventure. It's a naval warfare film in space, like many say, but it's also a pirate movie in a lot of ways. So yeah, Wrath of Khan's great. Can't wait to keep talking about it.
Yeah, Taylor.
All right, so I made a promise to myself that because I respect myself as a human being, that I was never going to watch Fanforstic for any reason whatsoever. Yeah, I'm looking at you, sir.
If only for the moisture points.
Sir, your fault.
So we did a bracket last year where it was every non-MCU Marvel film, and there was about like 6 you hadn't seen.
Yeah,
and this was one of them.
This was one of them by so much choice, like by design. So I sat down and watched it, and I was waiting. So I went into this movie like knowing everyone's thoughts about it because it had been around for so long by that point. So I went into it like waiting for tragedy to strike, because it started off fine. Like, you start watching it and you're like, okay. I wasn't super excited by what I saw, but I was like, this isn't bad. And then you get to the frickin' title card that's like,
1 year later,
we're gonna jump in time, and then it feels like you've gone into an MCU portal that's brought you to a universe where they have no idea what happened in the first half of the film and just started writing their own script for a whole nother timeline where like nothing correlates to anything. And it was so shocking. Like, I was ready for it because I knew, and I was still just so like caught off guard, even though I knew it was happening. And I knew what to expect, and it just felt so jarring, where I was just like, how is this allowed to happen by a studio with so much money?
Not only allowed, but encouraged.
Like how was this like given a rubber stamp of approval to happen in any circumstance ever? Because even like the most incompetent person would have to realize that was never going to work. whatever they were trying to do. It had to be someone that was like, well, we're just lighting money on fire at this point anyway, so we're just going to do whatever. We're never getting our returns back on this. And they just kind of like did whatever they wanted. And it was bad. And I think part of my soul left my body when I saw the hair, the wig, the wig killed my soul in a way that I don't think I'll ever recover from. Like and then the frickin', I don't even know if this is the last line of the film. I think it is.
Mm,
Do you know what I'm talking
about?
What's the frickin' stupid line?
It's
guys, I got it. It's fantastic. And
yeah,
you're like, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not only did you make me sit through this fucking disaster of a movie, you then give me that. That is what you're gonna leave me with.
It's fantastic.
What feels longer, the Lone Ranger or Fan Four Stick?
Lone Ranger.
I mean,
Lone Ranger is Lone Ranger is an hour longer.
It is, but that's my point, Robert. Fan Four Stick is a long ass 80 minutes.
I mean, it is. I don't know. I feel like maybe the Lone Ranger feels longer, but Fan Four Stick like steals part of my soul when I watch it. So like.
I just can't this many people are saying Fan Four Stick with like a straight face.
It's sorry.
I'm waiting for the moment where somebody asks a question about that movie and they say Fan Four Stick and somebody challenges. I don't know who.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Someone will say, "No, the title of that movie is Fantastic Four." Like the title of that film is it came out in 2015. The title of that movie is not Fan Four Stick.
My argument would be culturally, that's the way people distinguish it.
That's the distinguishing factor.
So are you going to call it AVP? That's not the name of the movie. It's Aliens versus Predator.
I think this season you could get away with it with the way
the benefit of the doubt is.
Yeah, you got a shot.
Whatever you want. I think you can get away with it. But anyway, Fan Four Stick is fucking trash. And I can't believe that I actually sat through it, and I'm never doing that again. I don't care.
I saw it like
never
3 times in theaters.
Oh my god, Robert!
Never happened.
Dude, I worked at the theater. I saw shit for free.
Oh, fair enough.
What are your thoughts?
So you had no choice.
Wrath of Khan's one of the greatest movies ever made.
I know, but I would like you to.
Okay, Wrath of Khan is one of the greatest movies ever made.
Why? Tell us, Jacob.
It'd be just basic storytelling.
Because of DeForest Kelly.
There's just absolute like the storytelling in that movie. Everything builds upon each other. There's not a wasted frame. There's not a wasted shot. Everything about it is constantly deepening the characters and deepening the story. I think it is such a well-made, such an incredibly told story that there's very few films that are on this bracket that are going to beat that for me. So Wrath of Khan. And the less said about Fan Four Stick, the better. All right, moving on.
Jacob, are you also a fan of the films Sevenin?
That's different because I actually respect that movie.
It's totally different.
Well, if anybody knew how to put like random like numbers and titles, it was David Fincher in the 90s.
Yeah, that is
fair.
Yeah. All right, next up, Kingsman: The Golden Circle versus The Incredible Hulk. Marisol, I am going to start with you.
Fucking Christ. Okay. Sorry. I don't like either of these movies, but I really especially do not like The Golden Circle. I'll be one of those people. I know a lot of people love the Kingsman movies. I'm not one of those people. And The Golden Circle, yuck. So much yuck. So much yuck in the movie. We've been on here before talking about how I'm really not a fan of overly digitized action. And everything that's supposed to be cool in the Kingsman movies are done on a computer so much and not enough in like actual action in person. I don't like digital camera movement and digital and CGI action. It's just too much of that. it's a little bit of an overload, and it's false. So that's my philosophy approaching this movie. I also think, it's just maybe Julianne Moore is the highlight because it's just so weird. It's just so bizarre, and just her role as a villain and everything that's just so overdone, like the dogs, and not a fan. But I'm trying not to rant. Incredible Hulk. Incredible Hulk always just seems to just be just so forgotten. Just so forgotten. And I just think that if you ask me what my favorite Hulk movie is it's always going to be
The Trial of the Incredible Hulk. Oh,
no, it's not.
I like that movie.
But
I like that movie.
But I God, I haven't seen Incredible Hulk in so long. Ed Norton is fine. I would have been really curious to see where he would go on with that character if he had been in the MCU movies, more of the MCU movies. But he kind of blew that. But sorry, it's fine. I'm not gonna prattle on. Everybody else can say something else. The point is, I vote for Incredible Hulk over Kingsman: The Golden Circle. Sorry, I didn't have my thoughts collected for that one. I just don't really like either of these films that much, but I really especially don't like The Golden Circle.
Fair. Robert.
I am one of those Golden Circle apologists. I am a Matthew Vaughn apologist. I think he is probably my favorite director working today, even though he hasn't made it. I haven't, I'm very excited for The King's Man, but man, everything he's made, from Layer Cake to Stardust, I love every movie he's made. Even Golden Circle, I really love that movie. And I understand the problems with it. I do acknowledge that. But I also really like what that movie has to say about drug use and incarceration in the US. It has a point to make. It has a socially relevant message, which I think is important to hear. Incredible Hulk, I like more than most people. I think it's still in the bottom third of the MCU, but I don't hate that movie. I think it has the best action in Phase 1 of the MCU, even better than the Avengers. I think the action in that movie between the Virginia school fight in the courtyard, as well as the final fight with the Abomination, is genuinely incredible. But I just fucking love Matthew Vaughn, and I love Kingsman, and I love Eggsy, and I just love every character that has made the Kingdom series. I love how they the introduction of the new characters is seamless in my opinion. I really, really enjoy Golden Circle more than anybody I've ever met. So I understand that I'm in the minority, but I love that movie. So Golden Circle for me.
Taylor.
Yeah, so I once again figured out that I had a very unpopular opinion about a movie once I started talking to other people about it. I didn't realize that people hated The Golden Circle until I was like, man, what a fun movie. I loved that.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, oh, that movie's the worst thing I've ever seen, and it sucks. And I can't believe they would do that to Kingsman. And oh my God, what even is that Elton John stuff? And I'm like, dude, I'm here for it. I don't know what you're talking about. I had so much fun. I had so much fun with it. I actually think I like it more than the first movie, which I know is sacrilegious. I know. I'm not going to apologize for it, though, because I've heard some horrendous takes on this show, and I'm going to have my own. I don't care. So I really like The Golden Circle a lot. I have fun with it. I think it's a great time. Elton John. There you go. I don't know. I like it. I'm on the train of Kingsman, go the Golden Circle apologist train.
Adam.
I just can't get past the spray foam brain insulation thing. It's just okay. So I appreciate people's fondness for that first movie. It had some fun stuff in it. I don't dislike it as much as Marisol, but I don't love it as much as Robert. I think that first movie's okay. And then Golden Circle was a movie that I was initially kinder to, just because I enjoyed some of the quips and the action. But as time went on and I revisited it, especially as I would catch scenes here and there, it feels bloated. Again, the logistical gymnastics that film takes, even for a comic book movie, to bring Colin Firth back and other things it does, you gotta really just let that go to enjoy it, and I can appreciate it if you do. I couldn't quite get there, when you just start bringing people back repeatedly throughout the film, it got increasingly frustrating for me. The Incredible Hulk, I like the emotion behind this movie. Robert brought up Trial of the Incredible Hulk. I am a big fan of that original series from the 70s. I like the TV movies. I like Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
They're actually good, yeah.
Yeah, like, because they didn't have much to work with, but like they try so hard. And is it Death of Incredible Hulk with where John Rhys Davies plays the Kingpin?
I believe so.
Yeah, like there's some interesting
That's the
stuff.
third one, right?
I think so. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in those old TV movies, and I like that they tried to capture some of that. But you can feel the conflict. Ed Norton and the director are just not quite jiving, and the Incredible Hulk effects were not quite there yet. You know, going back and revisiting the film, I kind of have to squint when I'm looking at it, and I don't think the Hulk really looked convincing until we got to the first Avengers film. But I do like the sentiment behind this movie. I like Liv Tyler as Betty. I would have liked her to come back in some capacity. I never bought into the Bruce Natasha romance and always wanted Betty to come back. So maybe that could happen someday. We'll see. But I
like where did she go?
I know. Come on, bring
Like,
back
she's
Jennifer
just
Connelly.
not
Bring back
even
Jennifer
in-
Connelly.
Yeah.
If Liv Tyler doesn't give a shit,
Just
like this
doesn't
is,
even-
Any reason to bring back Jennifer Connelly is
Yeah.
okay in my book. Like, bring her on screen.
and
Like,
I
you
want a
brought
William Hurt,
William
Sam
Hurt
Elliott
back.
fight
Yeah,
too.
like William Hurt very much continued
Yeah.
on. Like what? Like
We're doing this multiverse shit.
Can you
I want
imagine
William
Sam
Hurt.
Elliott and William Hurt like physically fist fighting?
Yes,
Like-
they look at each other the entire time, just
Yeah.
chastising each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm into
Incredible
it.
Hulk for me. I revisit and enjoy this film for what it is. The effects don't quite hold up for me, but the movie's okay.
All right. I am also a Incredible Hulk not apologist. I think Incredible Hulk is slightly underrated in the MCU. I do enjoy it. I think that it does have a lot of problems. I think Edward Norton is now that we've seen Ruffalo, Edward Norton is miscast for what they were going for what they wanted for the MCU. Edward Norton was clearly miscast.
The casting director watched Ronverse and was just like, yeah, that.
Yeah. That being said, like Golden Circle, I think is definitely a massive step back, and the Elton John is a lot of fun in that movie. So is Julianne Moore, and I think that is
so confused.
That
genuinely,
is
that's not
that
Pedro
I
Pascal
think-
is more confused than Alan John is.
Yeah. I think all that's a lot of fun. The biggest issue I have with it is the complete just demolition of the entire first movie. We're just gonna kill off everyone from the first movie except
It means something though. Like,
not really.
Okay,
Like
we're
shut
not
the fuck up.
just
Sorry.
finish your point.
yeah. And you know, it does the trope you hate.
Yeah, it does do the trope that I hate.
Yeah, and like I just it's something about that just drives me up the wall because I really like Lancelot. And
It does the trope that I hate, but it does the trope I hate so badly that I forget that it does that trope. So that's
the trope she hates is it kills off the woman to motivate the male.
yeah,
Which
that's my least favorite trope.
which
in a movie.
it definitely
Fair.
Which
does.
it definitely does, but
It does,
it's
it does.
done so like sideways.
Well, not his random ass Swedish bride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
She lives.
Doubling down on that romance. Ugh.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I'm voting Incredible Hulk by the slimmest of margins, just because I enjoy that movie. By the slimmest of margins more, and despite what we keep saying that there's other MCU movies, we keep knocking out MCU movies. So I'm voting Incredible Hulk. All right, and the Swifts are also voting Incredible Hulk as well. All right, we move on to Iron Man 2 versus Star Trek Into Darkness. Robert, I'm going to start with you.
Is this a hot take? I love Star Trek Into Darkness. I think it's a real good movie. I understand that like Star Trek purists, which may be a dirty term, but like I understand the problems with Into Darkness, but like, man, I fucking love it. Like it is so accessible, and I really enjoy it. And I understand the casting thing with Cumberbatch and Maltzbahn, and Cumberbatch clearly not being at all Latino, but like it doesn't bother me. Like I think Cumberbatch is great as Khan. I think he's intimidating in the way that he needs to be. He's cunning in the ways that he needs to be. He's really great for that role. And man, I really like Into Darkness. Like in my top probably 4 or 5 Star Trek movies, Iron Man 2 is in the bottom 8th of the MCU. Iron Man 2 maybe my least favorite MCU movie. It might be there. I think it's fine, which is like a testament to how good the MCU is, that like my least favorite is just okay. But I really enjoy Into the Darkness. It's clearly the worst of the trilogy. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's absolutely the worst of the trilogy, but like I really like everything that Peter Weller is doing in that movie. I like everything that Alice Eve, like I do get the complaints, like, you know, they make her a sex object, and like Carl Urban doesn't have as much to do. Like the complaints are extremely valid of that movie. I still have a kick-ass time watching it, so I'll take Into Darkness.
Can I jump off of that?
Yeah.
Because I'm also a Into Darkness apologist. Like, whatever, I enjoy it. My one complaint is the way that Alice Eve is handled in the film. The moment where you're like, they need to like change in front of each other, and we're gonna turn around, and she's just gonna have no clothes on. Like that really bothers me. But it's the one thing in the movie that bothers me. Everything else, I have a lot of fun with. I understand people's problems with it. Maybe I would feel different if I had seen the movies in the order that a lot of other people have. Like I saw the new trilogy before I saw anything else other than the original series. But like the movies I hadn't seen. And I really like the action in this film. I think the acting is great. I really love just the casting in general in the new film trilogy. And like he kind of makes fun of me, but this movie makes me cry. Like this movie, I lose it every single time. Like it makes me emotional, and I lose it. Like every single time, and he just sits there and is like, absolutely not.
Yeah,
but it does. It gets to me. It gets
it's fair.
Me, and I love it. So I'm gonna vote. I'm going to futilely, I think, vote Into Darkness because I don't think it's gonna survive. But
Into Darkness.
All right, Marisol.
Yeah, I'll keep this train rolling. I think Into Darkness is great. I think Abrams took a risk. I think that was just a risk. I know that we were championing him bringing back, like revitalizing and getting back the nostalgia and making you feel like you've been someplace that you've been before, but taking it to the next level with the first with 09 Star Trek. I do think it was. I think that was a risk to then be like, what if I do my own Wrath of Khan? I think that was a risky move. I think that could have misfired. I think people would have been, you're just asking to be compared to one of, up to that point, one of the most beloved Star Trek movies. But I think it's great. I think I enjoy those two uniquely in their own ways. I think Wrath of Khan is great. Wrath of Khan. Well, I do think Wrath of Khan is great, but I also think I think Into Darkness is great as well. And Cumberbatch while Montalban is iconic and memorable as he is, Cumberbatch is just, he's magnetic. I'm just like, he's like silk as a villain, and it's just, and all the emotional beats, like you're saying, all the emotional beats are there and are maintained without feeling like you're just kind of doing some imitation of the beats of Wrath of Khan. I think that was a very, very actually just deceptively difficult thing to pull off. And it worked. Abrams pulled it off and made a great adventure that stands on its own while still drawing very favorable parallels to the original. Iron Man 2
does not.
Not to draw too stark a comparison here, but Iron Man 2, my issue with Iron Man 2 is just, there's just not enough of a threat, and Mickey Rourke is just not a threat to Iron Man. There's no point in the film. The first scene that they even face off on the racetrack, Tony takes him out in like
Kicks his ass.
He kicks his ass in like 14 seconds. I was like, well, movie's over. Just like, it's just like, there's just not really. I disengage with Iron Man 2 pretty easily because I'm just like this is it moves along. It's not poor. It still kind of keeps up kind of the energy and the attitude. I do love the highlight of Iron Man 2 though. I do freaking love the fight at the party between War Machine when War Machine first puts a suit on and Tony, when they're fighting, and the little remix of like Queen is going on in the background, and I do that scene slaps. I do love that scene. But like I said, the rest of it is just a forgettable Iron Man movie for me with a forgettable villain. All I remember is Mickey Rourke's freaking bird. And no, it has more flaws than pluses. Some positives there, but like more cons and pros. Doesn't hold up in the schemes, and definitely pales in comparison to the first Iron Man. Into Darkness, for all the reasons that I said that it really deserves credit for. Into Darkness all the way.
The only thing that I remember ever from Iron Man 2 that sticks with me is we get to see racing in Monaco.
Yeah.
That's it. We get to see racing.
I was wondering when we would get to that.
That's it.
Well, Adam, you may now talk about that.
Yeah, well, so Iron Man 2, you feel the hastiness with that. Whenever I go back to this movie, I feel the urgency of this movie needing to exist. And it undermines some of the story. I do appreciate that, it gave us Don Cheadle's, introduction as Rhodey, because I think he has quietly become one of the best characters in all of these movies. And I think he's one of the strongest parts of this film, and as an actor of any film he's in, typically. But really liked his introduction. And then, it's a movie where we really have to lean into Tony's ego, and that can be exhausting. I know that's the point of his character in a lot of ways, in overcoming that ego for the greater good. But this one, we bask in that for a while. And it's like this kind of like Disney-ified version of hedonism that's kind of boring and tiring to sit through for a while for me. And I'm not crazy about the way they introduced Black Widow, even though she ends up becoming a very interesting character over time. Her introduction for me is not as well handled as Don Cheadle's, even though we'd met Rhodey in the previous film. Obviously it was a reintroduction because they had to recast him. So I think Iron Man 2 was a victim of circumstance in a lot of ways. I don't think it's a horrible, unwatchable movie. It's just clunky. And Star Trek Into Darkness is, I think, unfairly maligned because it is a mirror image of Wrath of Khan, but that's the point of the movie in a lot of ways. And I think it was established pretty early on that we're dealing, with echoes of the original films and television series. So I was on board with Into Darkness's take on the Khan mythos, and I also like Karate Spock a lot. I really like seeing him sprint in his little bowl cut, gets ruffled, and he just doing all the moves. I really like that climactic scene. So I vote for Into Darkness.
Jesse, I see your internet has allowed you to rejoin us.
We shall see. Can you hear me okay right now?
Yeah, we can hear.
It's a lot better.
All right. We'll ride this while we can. So to quote Into Darkness, Khan specifically, I am better. And then, Kirk's response at what? Everything. And that's kind of how I feel about this matchup right here. Into Darkness, I think is, I'm not going to say the worst, I will say the least good of the new three. However, that does not make it a not good movie, because upon first watch, it was my favorite of the three, which was interesting. And then I watched all of them in one day, and I was like, actually not, but I still love it. I think that Benedict was his own Khan. At no point did he try to emulate Ricardo Montalban at all. Mm-hmm. He was completely different. And what else is great is I love the whole Kelvin timeline concept, because then you have Leonard Nimoy being like, oh yes, we also had a Khan in our timeline that we dealt with. Now in one of them, his racial heritage is completely different, but we will ignore that. And the action's good, the interpretation's good. And at the time, until yesterday, I hadn't seen Wrath of Khan, so I didn't have the comparison. And so many people crapped all over Into Darkness because of what it wasn't, instead of praising it for what it was, which is what I'm choosing to do. Iron Man 2 is struggling because it was one of the first offenses, I will say, of Marvel trying to get a lot of setup done in one film. The next one would be Age of Ultron. And so it doesn't feel like a complete movie that can stand on its own. Ironically, Into Darkness is also something that stands on top of something else pre-existing. I just think Into Darkness does a much better job and succeeds in being an entertaining and fun movie. Whereas Iron Man 2, I think you end up rolling your eyes more than once in the film. So my vote goes for Star Trek.
So I think I'm going to be the only one who actually votes for Iron Man 2 here.
Yeah, I think so.
And I get what everyone's saying about how it stands on its own and it doesn't, that they're not trying, that they're trying to create their own thing. I have problems fundamentally with the story that they're trying to tell, because they're trying to do Wrath of Khan without Space Seed. And that's a big thing. Space Seed's and for those of you who don't know, Space Seed is the episode that Khan was in, which is very important for why that you get all your motivation and everything in that. And the whole movie comes across as, we're doing Khan because we're doing Khan. Get over it, move on. Instead of, we want to tell this story. Now, I think Iron Man 2 has a lot of problems, a lot of them. And most of the problems are revolving around, they hadn't figured out how to do setup yet. They were still learning. They were still trying to develop the Marvel formula of how do we tell these stories while also setting up our universe. And I think these two movies are such neck and neck, and Star Trek's already making it through. So I'm going to vote Iron Man 2 because I think it's a slightly better movie, and Star Trek Into Darkness, I just have so many problems with. And
I sit there and cry and get emotional, and he sits there and shakes his head and just is like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, basically.
So it's a fun time for everyone involved.
All right. We got a couple of tough ones coming up in a minute. All right. Superman 2 versus X-Men First Class.
Ooh.
Oh, all right.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we're getting our next person, I'm guessing. Who would like to go first? Because I was going to make... All right, Robert. Yep, you're up.
I don't have a lot to say, so I'll go real quick. X-Men First Class is maybe a perfect movie. It is the perfect X-Men film. There are a few sort of cheesy moments, but it's pure X-Men. It is pure Magneto and Professor X coming up together. Is pure Wolverine saying "Go fuck yourself." It is it is the most pure of the X-Men films. It is Mystique grappling with who she is. Like, X-Men First Class is probably my favorite X-Men film. Over Deadpool, over Logan. Like, First Class is fucking perfect. And Superman 2 is fine. I just have very little attachment to the character because of my age. I think it's good. I think it does have something to say about, personal sacrifice for the greater good. But First Class is spectacular. So, for sure, First Class.
Adam.
I vote for Wrath of Khan. I mean, it just it's the theme of the night. X-Men First Class is really cool because, we needed this one. We've been slumming it for a couple films, and it was getting harder and harder. And this came along, and what was so fun about First Class is it for me, I used to read. I had this big trade paperback of all the old Marvel DC crossovers from the 60s and 70s, and they had the Teen Titans versus the Uncanny X-Men. And it was in that 60s, 70s style of comic book illustration and stuff. And I really like going back to the 60s with the X-Men in this movie. I felt like it captured the spirit of the comic books in that way. I know people zero in on January Jones because she's a little lifeless in this. Easy target. I think most of the film is very, very good. That said, Superman 2, for me, to Robert's point, is a little bit, I have a little bit more of a connection to that movie emotionally. And what I really love about it is all the best superhero sequels capitalize on the fact that the origin story is out of the way. And Superman 2 goes right into it. And we get that delivery on that promise of the villains from the first movie. And that was always such an exciting development for me. And for Superman to have to contend physically with beings that have comparable power, but also have to figure out a way to outwit a general from his own planet, it makes you realize Superman is an infant in a lot of ways, from a Kryptonian point of view. And Man of Steel, obviously borrows a lot from Superman 2 and kind of puts it out there a little bit more obviously. But I like that Superman 2 gave us the best of both worlds. We still have Lex Luthor running around doing his thing. Gene Hackman's great. So we get the physically imposing villains, and we still get Lex Luthor. I like all the stuff with Superman, having to, regain his powers and everything as well. So Superman 2 is my vote. I understand if the fondness for First Class in a modern, context might push it through, but had to stand hard for Superman 2 in case it doesn't make it through.
Jesse.
I saw Superman 2 far after it came out. I was rewatching the original 2 because it's hard to get past that. And a lot of people reference Superman 2 when they critique Man of Steel. And so it makes me automatically have a little bit of a grudge against Superman 2 because they're like, oh, Superman doesn't kill. I was like, well, he took away Zod's power and kicked him into an abyss. And then let's not forget the rip-off. Yeah, there's just it's goofy and campy, and I can respect that for what it is, just like I respect the 60s Batman, but that Batman does not resonate with me today in my life, and I don't feel like the Christopher Reeve incarnation of Superman as much as I respect it and appreciate it for what it was and what it did for comic book movies, for Superman as a character, and so many other things. When I watch it, it doesn't resonate in there. It doesn't get in there. X-Men, along with Spider-Man, are the two properties that are responsible for getting into comic book material. So I have a very soft spot for them. And like Adam was saying, we were in a rough spot. The X-Men movies were not doing well. When the trailers for this came out, I thought it still looked bad. I wasn't excited for this. I was like, this still looks whack. And I saw it and I was like, my God, I think that's my favorite X-Men movie. And honestly, it is. First Class is my favorite X-Men proper movie. So we're not counting Deadpool and Logan and stuff like this. This is, I think, the first time that Fox came up with a movie that didn't look like it was afraid to be an X-Men film.
What is
You know, you get a little bit of color in there. What's that?
Sorry, I said was summer of 2011. It was either this or Green Lantern, like.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I love the characters. You know, they brought in Havoc, even though Azazel didn't get a lot of lines. He was in there. Kevin Bacon should not have worked as Sebastian Shaw, but he kind of did, and it went dark when it needed to go dark. And I loved that this movie conceptually started out as X-Men Origins Magneto, and you can feel that in the core of the film. And yeah, so I could go on about either movies one way or the other, but First Class by a long shot for me.
Marisol.
This
I'm sorry, us. Lauren agrees. My bad.
This is these are two properties close to my heart. I do really enjoy both of these franchises immensely. I gotta give First Class its due. Like, you know, like it did, like you were saying, it was a breath of fresh air, revitalized the franchise, really gave it a new life again with audiences and with critics. And it's just a fun idea. It's just a fun setting. It's like this is sometimes I groan whenever I hear like origin stories. I'm like, oh, great. So we get to learn like we get to go textbook. They try to find something interesting to say before a character gets to where we all knew they were. But there is so much to mine with X-Men. There's in Origins, like you get to see, seeing the origins of like the linchpins of the series, Magneto and Xavier, and then seeing the greatest bromance of like maybe the 21st century, freaking James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. That takes a cake. And Fassbender knows how to wear a turtleneck. I'll give him that. And I still, which is just my problems with the new series and the movies, not crazy about the Raven turn, the anti-hero turn, or, you know, like the hero turn, I guess, at first for Raven. I've never been crazy about that. So that I still kind of reject that with these movies and when it starts here. But I just love even just like that scene, oh God, help me, your IG Parker, Argentina or Brazil, where Fassbender's hunting down, Magneto's hunting down. Wait, you're muted.
Oh, I know.
It's Argentina.
It's Argentina. That's right.
Yeah.
Love that scene.
The bar scene is
classic. Score is great all throughout the film. And yeah, I'll give Matthew Vaughn some credit with this film. I will. Superman 2 deserves so much credit. I love, again, those original Superman movies, particularly the first and the second one, were just so influential on storylines and the directions and where people feel comfortable telling what kind of stories and superheroes today. And I love that much of the focus in Superman 2 is just not, can he punch? Like, it's not like, let's see how tough he is. It's like, no, let's tell a romance. Let's tell a love story. And let's see how Superman has to then choose. Like, that's the real conflict of the film, is the choices that he has to make, the responsibilities that he's burdened with that power, and how he then has to make these decisions between being happy and caring about what he wants or sacrificing, you know, what he loves to like get his powers back and I guess save the planet. Like, you know, like he's just like, do I want to save the planet? Or do I want to look out for myself? And I've always loved those kind of conflicts. Those kind of stories have always been more important than just the measures of just brute strength with Superman. You know, I never like when he just seems so invincible. It's really great when you bring in those kind of conflicts, and you can't have done it set the bar any higher than showing doing that kind of superhero storytelling with Superhero 2 or with Superman 2. I can't get enough. I really do love Superman 2. It's an excellent sequel. And it still warms my heart. X-Men First Class is a solid and a great restart. Way to rejuvenate the franchise. But I'm gonna give it to Superman 2 for all the reasons I said.
You couldn't put these up against Conan the Destroyer and Planet of the Apes.
I mean, yeah,
would have killed you, right? Yeah.
Both of these guys could easily go through, and they would deserve to go through. But
Yep,
Superman 2.
I know. Just wait till our next one.
Diabolical.
Yeah, so I really, really love a lot about X-Men First Class. When I first saw the movie, I was so excited about what I had seen. I think the casting is great across the board. As was mentioned, we got the bromance for all ages when we got McAvoy and Fassbender together, which spawned some of the best press tours I've ever seen in my life, hands down. And that just worked so great on screen, especially with the heartbreaking story that you're going to be telling about the relationship between those two characters. It was kind of a lightning in the bottle thing where they just cast the completely correct people to do that and make you feel it and be heartbroken about it. There's one major thing, I guess, in particular that has always bothered me about it, and it's their like, why did we need to kill Armando? Like when they're all in the courtyard and he just like randomly, they're like, the black guy? Oh, he's dead. Like there's no real reason to kill him, but he's dead. It's fine. Like we don't need him anymore.
Justice for Darwin.
Like yeah, like really, like that's what we're choosing to do here. Cool. Love that for you, I guess. So that kind of bothers me, like even still today when I think about it, because I don't actually feel like it services the story in a way that you couldn't have chose another character and it still works fine to like have them realize that they're actually in danger, and if you cross the wrong person, like you could be killed, and that just kind of really bothers me that that's how they chose to do that. But it's a minor grievance. I love pretty much everything about the film. I think the emotional beats work really well. I think it was a great way to kind of reintroduce people to the X-Men in a way that most people generally found positive. A lot of people really hold this movie in pretty high regards in terms of all of the X-Men films. So, yeah, I don't have really negative things to say about Superman 2, but X-Men First Class is just, it has that place in my heart for sure.
Well, with that, X-Men First Class does make it through, and Superman 2 has been eliminated.
At least we have Burton's Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, thanks.
You guys love it.
I felt that one.
You love doing this show.
I've been chill. Everything I'm like, yeah.
I said, this week's not that bad.
That's the first
next week is.
Oh, next week's gonna hurt.
My heart can't take it because, like, yeah, it was either last week or the week before where my picks were dropping like flies, and I was.
There was our last episode. I think I have a feel like that last episode. I got Dan to say "fuck you, Jacob," so I actually broke Dan. So that
was pretty bad.
Yeah. All right, we got 5 left, guys. Let's go.
Oh no.
Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring versus X-Men.
Jacob, what is this? Okay, you were just like, okay, did you just move that one up in the queue after
I actually did, and that was all next.
Fuck you, Jacob.
Straight from the champ.
You've now had what, 2 belt holders?
I've had 3. No, I've had
3 champions.
I've had 4 champions. I've had 4 champions tell me. Yeah.
So this is the worst time for me not to be able to use my soundbite of Jacob's an asshole, because now I'm using my phone so I can have fun on the internet. I have to
I've had 5.
Lauren so that she can have a meltdown.
I've had 5 because Alex also did.
Oh yeah, Alex also did. So
Alex also did. I'm on a roll. Jesse, do you want to start this one?
I have to go talk and get.
Oh yeah, sorry. All good.
Back in a second.
Okay.
All right. Marisol. I'll let you rip. Do you want to rip the? Okay. Do you want to rip?
Knife.
Okay. Do you want to rip the Band-Aid off, or do you want to delay it?
I do want to rip the Band-Aid off. Because there's no way on the planet I am not voting for Fellowship of the Ring. It is my favorite. It's my favorite. It's not only my favorite Lord of the Rings film, but it is one of my favorite films of all time. And there's no way on the planet, I don't care what, there's only like 10 movies. There's only maybe like 6 movies it could be up against that I would vote for them over it. God, this sucks. Yeah, Fellowship of the Ring is definitive. You've heard me talk about how monumental it is in the history of cinema, just looking at filmmaking, in the history of filmmaking, how monumental Peter Jackson's trilogy is. His original trilogy is, how unprecedented it is. And it kicked off with Fellowship, the one that started it all, the one that the biggest risk of them all, before they knew that this was going to be a hit. In December 2001, this was the movie that this kicked off. Unbelievable. I'll just lament for X-Men instead, which was also, I think, a really important film. The year before Fellowship of the Ring came out. This was, I know Spider-Man blew the doors wide open, but I don't think Raimi's Spider-Man would have been as well received if X-Men a couple years before hadn't really paved it. And maybe even before that, if Blade hadn't a couple years before really just kind of chipped away and tried to get people ready. But X-Men is, I love X-Men. I love this movie. And it was just such a great way to bring some of the best of what the X-Men world has to offer. Tie in, make the political, the social aspect of it, the social issues aspect of it, the metaphors of it front and center, and really lead with that. Really connect and engage moviegoers and everything by leading with. It's not necessarily so you don't get caught up in just like, oh, what skills people have, but really what the themes of it, how those people will be treated like outcasts in society, and the metaphors are off the charts. And I love Bryan Singer did a great job. I love Bryan Singer's X-Men movies. His are like, all of his X-Men movies are my favorites, are my favorite ones in the series. He just gets it. And I love the series take with all of this. I still, if I could have changed one thing about that film, sorry, Hallie, I would make Angela Bassett Storm. That's the one missed opportunity there. I don't know why Angela Bassett wasn't cast as Storm. I have no idea why. I don't know. Maybe somebody like deleted her emails or like, hit her mail. I don't know. That's maybe the only thing I would change about it. But this kills me. I love you, X-Men. I'm so sorry, but Fellowship of the Ring has to move on for me.
Adam?
Yeah, Fellowship of the Ring. This one's one that I would expect to go the distance in this bracket for good reason. I agree with everything Marisol said about the film. I saw it 5 times in theaters. The soundtrack, the score alone makes me emotional. Even though I know Gandalf is going to come back in the Two Towers, the scene still gets me every time. It just makes me very, very sad. And I find Gandalf to be such an inspiring and brave and stubbornly selfless character. And I saw someone point out McKellen is in both films. Duh. We all realize that, but like, I love that he was able to demonstrate his range, across both films, and really show how menacing he could be and how endearing he could be at the same time. X-Men deserves all the credit in the world, but Fellowship is the definition of transcendent cinema for me. So it's going to take a lot to beat it, in my opinion.
Jesse?
All right, unmute myself there. So we are an unhappy household here. We are in a unified agreement, and I'll walk you through what I can. X-Men is a center point for both of us in how we were, or like, the birth of our love of comic lore and Marvel fandom. It's very much so responsible for that. It's probably one of my most rewatched movies in my life. I love that film. It's not perfect. It has some flaws, especially the more you watch it, the more you kind of pick up. And it, like I referenced with First Class, it is an example of one of the movies that seemed like it was afraid to embrace what it really was. But it was still brave because we had never had a comic book movie like that. So it was kind of stuck between trying to appeal to the masses and doing like the whole black leather thing and not going as comic booky as, say, the Spider-Man movies and Avengers movies that we get now, but still ride the line with a little bit of grit and a little bit of realism before it was popularized by Dark Knight. So I want to give all the respect in the world to X-Men. I did also say that First Class is my favorite X-Men film. So with that surviving, I feel pretty good. That did survive, right?
Yes, First Class did.
I was doubting myself for a second. So I feel a lot better about that. And then say with confidence that we're going to vote Lord of the Rings, because as much as I love X-Men, The Fellowship of the Ring is a more impressive film. It is a better film in every way that you can really judge a film. Compose, or the score, the acting, the dialogue, everything's just better in that film. So I have to put my bias aside and say that that is the better film that should move on past this round. Who agrees, but she wants to say she is not happy, Bob. Not happy.
Taylor.
Yeah, so I'll keep this.
Mr. Sands, we didn't want to be saved.
Gonna keep this short and sweet, because I'm not particularly passionate about this matchup. So Fellowship of the Ring gets my vote.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Robert. I love how you were having an existential crisis, Marisol, and Taylor's just like, Fellowship. Okay, moving on.
I'm probably the most passionate about this matchup.
I don't know.
Oh,
I'll fight you, Robert.
I think we just lost Robert. No.
Because the internet could not hold that passion level.
No, it could not hold that passion. Oh, we've lost. Oh no, there we go. We have him back.
Hey,
Yeah,
I'm back.
He's
All
back.
right.
All right.
Talk about suspense. You couldn't script that.
Where do you lose me?
We never heard
We
anything.
never heard anything.
Oh,
he
you
said.
didn't hear shit. Okay, wonderful.
It gives you a chance.
I was just gonna. No, I'm not gonna say shit. I was just gonna say that I think X-Men is a very brave movie. It is a very important movie. It is the reason that we have the MCU. It is the reason that we have superhero films. It is a progressive film for its time. At the same time, it also has the line, "What happens to a toad when he gets struck by lightning? The same thing happens to everything else." Like, it is not a particularly transcendent written film, whereas Fellowship of the Ring is maybe my favorite movie of all time. Probably is. Like, Fellowship of the Ring is probably the most important movie in my life. Probably the most, my favorite film of all time. Like, I don't care if you talk extended or not. Like, Fellowship of the Ring is the film for my entire being and presence, and just, Fellowship of the Ring is me. Not to over accentuate it, but Fellowship of the Ring is everything to me. So it's Fellowship of the
Ring.
Yeah.
That's
To be
big.
fair, that line that Halle Berry said, that toad line, that wasn't her fault. That's the editor's fault.
No,
They edited
I'm
out-
not
they
saying it's
edited
on
out,
her.
the references to that line.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's on her. I think X-Men should have gone harder for what it wanted to be. It should have gone more. It should give me more mystique. Give me more. It should have gone harder. But Fellowship of the Ring just is
knows exactly what it is.
Yeah,
There's no fear in that film.
for lack of exaggerating. Like, it is cinema. Like, legit, Fellowship of the Ring is everything that storytelling is supposed to be. Is that movie?
All right, we got 4 left. 4 spots left, and then we are on to the final round of the final round 1 bracket next week.
Sure.
Then we're gonna go through and do it all over again. All right. Spider-Man: Homecoming versus Escape from the Planet of Apes. Robert, you were the one you said you were partial to the Planet of the Apes movies.
I love the Apes movies. Look, I like Spider-Man: Homecoming. I don't like that it's an Iron Man movie. Escape from the Planet of the Apes is unique. It's original. It is damn good. Spider-Man: Homecoming is very good, but it doesn't feel like a Spider-Man movie. It doesn't feel like it's original. It doesn't feel like it's unique. It doesn't feel like it's brave. It doesn't feel like it's able to pull away from Iron Man. It feels like that film lives in the shadow of Tony Stark, and that's a shame because Spider-Man is his own hero. And Escape from the Planet of the Apes is one of the most unique movies that's on this list. It is truly unique. It is holistically its own. It is 1972 in a time capsule. Like, it is holistically unique, and I love it. I love every second of Escape. So for sure, give me that.
All right, Adam.
Yeah. I know. I'm seriously like, these are very different movies. Which that happens a lot on this show, doesn't it?
It does.
So Escape from the Planet of the Apes, what I like about this one is it's the one that goes back in time, for the first time, because, in Beneath, it kind of, there's nowhere to go from there. So like sending 2 of the ape characters into the past and kind of allowing it to be this like backdoor prequel to the Apes series is very clever. Mm-hmm. And to Robert's point, Spider-Man: Homecoming is a very watchable and, in my opinion, enjoyable movie, but it is very much a Marvel product. I know people are hard on the Amazing movies, but at least they're about Spider-Man, and I do think Homecoming is better than those on paper, but it is frustrating to see the character pulled in 2 separate directions. So if I watch Homecoming, I'm not watching it as a Spider-Man movie. I'm watching it in the context of the larger Marvel story, and it serves its purpose in that regard, and it's entertaining in that regard. But Escape is, low budget punk rock filmmaking, and it's brave and interesting and original, and it may not go farther than this round, but I'm going to vote for Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Tell.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Both enjoyable movies. I think I have just a tough time generally with Spider-Man films. I enjoy them mostly for what they are, and I usually have fun with them. But I'm not particularly passionate about Spider-Man movies. I don't think as much as a lot of people are. I enjoy the character, and seeing the character kind of woven into the MCU is interesting. I know so many people were hoping that would actually get to happen, and I think it services what they're trying to do. It works. I don't think Spider-Man for them was.
My God.
I don't think Spider-Man was ever going to be what people were expecting in terms of like kind of being its own thing. Like if Marvel Disney was going to do it, it was going to be very much a team, part of the universe kind of thing, which I don't really mind. Like that's fine with me. Escape from Planet of the Apes, I enjoy too. I don't know. This one's hard for me because it's like I can watch either of them. Yeah, I'll go. I don't know what to do. Let's go with Escape from Planet of the Apes. I don't know.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. Marisol.
I'm gonna keep this easy, keep this moving. Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Fuck yeah.
Are you okay?
Jesse? Adam, I'm just to confirm in room. You voted Escape as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Jesse.
Wow. That's surprising. Not to poo-poo on Escape or anything. I just think it's surprising the amount of support that's getting really cool.
Ooh, so professional.
I agree with Adam saying that it made a lot of bold choices and that it was punk rock and it was interesting and it was a cool method. A cool place to go when you've kind of written yourself into a corner with storytelling. Homecoming, I think even out of the Spider-Man movies that don't work, I think Homecoming had the least interesting amount of things to say about Spider-Man and the character. Not to say it's the worst Spider-Man movie by a long shot, because it's not. It succeeds in so many other ways. I just think that it has a lot of shortcomings as far as it comes with Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Things that I think get better as it goes. So it's a movie that I enjoy, but it's mid to low mid-tier Marvel for me. Escape from the Planet of the Apes is not something that I choose to revisit a lot. I really, really like the original Planet of the Apes, and of course the new ones too. A lot of the older sequels I just don't get as invested in. So for me, even though it's not like a resounding vote, it is Homecoming. And then when I went and asked Lauren how she felt, she likes Homecoming a lot more than I do. So it's also a Homecoming vote for us.
Well, with that, Spider-Man Homecoming has been eliminated by Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Robert, text Mara.
I would not have ever in a million years have called.
Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, buddy.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Robert.
I bet you $20 she's on the side of Escape.
Yeah, no, I was.
I would. I'm guessing
thrilled
she
about
would be
this.
too. Wow, I was not expecting that one. That's definitely my biggest upset of the day. Well, all right, let's move on.
Let's see what she says.
Howard the Duck versus Glass.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Matchup. What?
Adam,
Oh.
I'm going to start with you.
This is so weird. I love it when it gets weird. So Glass. Oh Jesus Christ! Like M. Night Shyamalan is just he's making a whole bunch of stuff these days, and Glass. Like, I do think, like, Unbreakable, nowadays, when you go back and watch it, like, all the themes seem really obvious because we've beaten superhero mythology to death now. So Unbreakable seems very kind of basic, I think, to a lot of, like, younger film goers. When you put Unbreakable in context, it's not, like, one of my favorite movies ever, but I do appreciate that M. Night Shyamalan was just making something in the moment because he genuinely was into superhero mythology and looking at it from a unique angle. And then Split came along, and it was its own thing, and I think Split's interesting enough. And then we get this setup for combining the stories, and I think that idea is cute. I don't think it makes a good movie, and I don't think Glass is a very good movie. I think Glass says all the same things Unbreakable says in a very more obvious, less interesting way, and it doesn't. seeing these characters all mixed together for me doesn't do anything. I didn't need it. I saw this movie because, I just wanted to see if it could subvert my expectations. And for me, it's a mixed bag of stuff that doesn't quite work. I think Split and Unbreakable separately are more interesting movies than Glass ever will be. Now, I might lose some people. Howard the Duck is bad. It's bad. But people are like way too hard on Howard the Duck when you compare it to other movies, especially comic book movies. And the most egregious thing about Howard the Duck is the runtime. It's way too long, especially for a comedic comic book movie. That's why the jokes are worn out. If it were a 90 to 100-minute movie, I think it would be a little bit more digestible. But the things I do like about Howard the Duck are the creature effects, both Howard himself to an extent, but the Dark Overlord, like giant, like monster at the end. Jeffrey Jones, even though off camera, he's not the most esteemed individual. When back in the 80s and a little bit of the 90s, like, he's an entertaining character actor. I like, he just is. And Ferris Bueller and Beetlejuice are the obvious ones, but he's really quite good in Howard the Duck. Like, it's a ridiculous movie, but he gives it his all, and he is so good at playing this guy who gets possessed by this force and gets increasingly more weird. And I just like the quirkiness of Howard the Duck. It's bad, but it knows what it is, and Glass doesn't have a clue what it is, in my opinion. So I vote for Howard the Duck.
Jesse.
I give Adam all the credit in the world for how he broke that down. I really like that. I have a different approach. What film can I sit through the longest before turning off? I've seen these movies, and one disappoints me to a disgusting level, and the other one, I think, disgusts me in a disappointing level. I don't know. Howard the Duck has duck boobs and condoms, and it's just got way too much sex in its mind, and that's not what I'm looking for in a comedic comic book movie, or often in most movies. I don't need that much bestiality, lust in my film, or any really would be great. Glass, they killed David Dunn, spoiler alert, in a puddle, and that's a sin that is almost as egregious as M. Night's take on The Last Airbender. So I'm really put in a pickle here. I think I can more quickly watch the first 45 minutes of Glass than I can the first 10 minutes of Howard the Duck. So by that logic, I will vote Glass. But I'm saying it. Oh, sorry. If we're still doing two votes, I went and talked, and Lauren's also Glass. We're pretty much on the same page for most of these matchups.
All right, Robert.
This one's weird. Because first off, Mara texted me back. She said Homecoming by her. Which is a shame. But
I was wrong.
I would have lost money on that one. But on this one, it's tough because I used to be very close with somebody who has DID. And that makes both Split and Glass very hard to watch because they're just like wildly inaccurate portrayals of the real thing. At the same time, like, because of the wildly inaccurate portrayal and because of it's just a very personal thing. I would rather watch Howard the Duck than I would rather watch Glass. Like, I do think Glass is a better movie, but it's just a very strange thing for me. I'm a horrible judge of anything in the Eastrail trilogy, especially the last two films, because I was at one point very, very close to somebody with daddy, and it's just like a horrid betrayal, and it's just like atrocious. Like it is just nothing like the real disorder. And so Glass is just digs itself a massive fucking hole. As much as I don't like Howard the Duck, Glass I think is just a little bit worse for me personally, even though I think I'm wrong. That I just, for what I can watch on an everyday basis, like Howard the Duck takes it.
Taylor.
I enjoy Glass for what it is. I think it's fine. I don't think it's the worst movie he's ever made by far. And I haven't seen Howard the Duck, so we're gonna go with Glass.
Fair enough. Marisol.
Yeah, some chaos reasoning here. I totally agree with what you're saying, Adam, about like I think we've already, by the time we get to Glass, we've already explored kind of the themes, the ideas that we're trying to talk about in Glass. I'm sorry, but even when I saw the trailer, I was just like, I feel like M. Night's just kind of milking this idea for all he can get out of it. I kind of rather just actually watch a superhero movie instead, like an actual superhero movie. And it's stretching it kind of beyond something actually plausible. Jesse made me laugh, reminding me of the puddle thing.
That's the name of the fourth film. Puddle.
Right.
Christ.
But I gotta go for. I've only ever seen clips of Howard the Duck. I have not had the honor of watching this abomination that I've heard. So this infamous film. But like I think you say you don't want some bestiality in your life, but it's like that kind of thing where you're seeing a link and you're just like, a woman sleeps with a duck, and you're like, ew, gross.
I can't watch Beauty and the Beast.
But I think I'm gonna click that and just like kind of like
That's
like
a
I
hot
think but you totally then kind of click it and watch it for like 10 seconds. That's kind of how I feel about Howard the Duck. And as messy, it's kind of like back when I think I like almost voted for Batman and Robin like a while back. I was just like, you know what? If I get really drunk and watch this, the entertainment value goes through the roof. And sometimes being infamous is better than being completely mediocre and dour and trying to be a serious film but kind of failing. And so I'm going to give my vote to Howard the Duck because I would love to throw a couple back and watch it play out and just be like either like horrified or even just laugh at it, and I can't say that I would get any of those brands of entertainment rewatching Glass.
Yeah, Thompson.
One of these movies is enjoyable despite being extremely messy and not quite landing the way that it was intended. The other one has Leah Thompson and duck boobs. I'm going with duck boobs. How would the duck win?
Taylor's not
I
impressed.
really hope you weren't planning on staying in this house tonight. Like, I really hope that wasn't part of your plan.
I am not wearing duck boots.
Feather weather.
I really hope that your plan was not to stay here tonight. So
that's fair.
I hope that it's a very short flight to LA for you, so that you have a couch to sleep on.
I'll find a couch. I'll find somewhere, or I'll just sleep in the car.
There you go.
Oh man! All right. Next up, we have The Predator versus The Old Guard.
Oh Christ,
Taylor.
No.
Okay.
It's The Old Guard, and it's not even a question. Like, honestly, The Predator is such an abomination to anything that those movies were and are, and anything that makes them enjoyable. The Old Guard has Charlize Theron, a bunch of ass kicking. It has immortal people. it's got like I think the concept of it is so fun. I think it was actually executed very well. I think the cast is all great. I think it's a very immersive film that makes you want to learn more about that world and these people and the lives that they've lived. And I really have a lot of fun with it. I think it's well made, and the Predator can just be flung into the Grand Canyon and die. Like I hate that movie so goddamn much. It's so offensively bad. Like the script is bad, the dialogue is horrendous. The cast does not feel like they want to be there at any point in the whole film. It's just I absolutely not. No.
Okay. Adam?
We're getting into the waning hours. I'm gonna be efficient this round and just say, for the sake of Charlize and Gina Prince Bythewood, the old guard, let's keep this going.
Robert?
Yeah, I am actually gonna go against the grain. I like The Old Guard. I think it's very watchable. I think it's a very entertaining film. The Predator is killing people. Like I have a soft spot for that franchise, for both the Alien and the Predator franchise. And even though I think there are some atrocious things done in that movie, the portrayal of autism, like the portrayal of PTSD in Thomas Jane's character, like there is a lot that's very wrong with 2018's The Predator. I think if I was going to pop one in right now, I'd rather watch that than The Old Guard. I think both are fine, but 2018's The Predator is the one that I would watch at this very moment. So I think both are alright, but Predator for me.
Okay. Marisol?
I think The Old Guard. I find The Old Guard slightly underwhelming. I had high hopes for it when I saw it. Finally seeing Prince Bythewood again directing, love her, and Charlize heading a superhero tinged comic book film about immortal like war. I was just like, yes. I also think really want to see more Kiki Lane. I really like her, and I just want to see her in more films. And she handles her own against an A-lister here. I think the smaller budget is noticeable, and I think that I just think that, you know, the finale just kind of seems to take place in somebody's like 50th floor apartment, like just like somebody's like empty kind of office building up there. A little bit underwhelming, a little bit mid-level in terms of spectacle. I found the old guard was, but I did find the story fascinating, and I did like the way they paid attention to character and fleshed it out. And I would like to see another one. I do think Chiwetel Ejiofor gets a short stick in the film, but you know, what are you going to do? I would like to see another one of those films. I do hope they could continue that story, even if the film is a little bit underwhelming. Y'all know how I already feel about The Predator. I think it's a low point in the franchise. A lot of eye rolling, a lot of frustrating lack of restraint with Shane Black in that film, and still also kind of like hackneyed storytelling, and just kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Predator puppies, though, Predator dogs, those are kind of cute, kind of, but not enough. So I'm gonna vote for The Old Guard.
2010's Predators did better.
Jesse?
There, yeah. It did.
They did the doggos better.
I got yeah. You got that one right. Yeah, you're right.
So I want to speak to the theatrical experience, I guess, for a second, because I saw The Predator in theaters because I have A-list, and you're looking for ways to use that. Mm-hmm. And Old Guard I started watching on Netflix at home, and it's harder to have a focused attention span, I think, sometimes. So I didn't make it all the way through Old Guard. It didn't hold my attention. I understood the premise, but it wasn't grabbing me. Maybe it was the characters that weren't grabbing me more so than the premise. And despite myself, I was entertained watching The Predator, knowing it was bad the entire time. I don't know what to speak, how to speak to that, or really where my vote should be going. I fully agree that the portrayal of Asperger's and I believe Thomas Jane, aside from PTSD, I think he had Tourette's also.
Tourette's, yeah.
It's uncomfortably.
All the stuff.
What I will say about the film that kind of changed how I felt about it is if you view it as a morbid, dark comedy, I do think it works a little better. And that's what I started doing with The Predator. And it's a departure from the rest of the movies. But if you were to ask me, would I rather finish watching Old Guard or revisit The Predator? I'll say The Predator. I'll be the weirdo today.
Well, you're all crazy. Old Guard is definitely making it
kicks
through.
ass.
I really, really enjoyed
Kicks
the Old
ass.
Guard. I had a lot of fun with that movie, and I don't know, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So, Old Guard makes it through to the next round.
Okay, you're allowed to stay.
All right, last one. Sorry,
Nothing.
Last one.
last one. Star Trek Insurrection versus Waterworld. Marisol, I'm going to start with you.
I mean, Waterworld is so goddamn goofy. It really is, and this is me in the 90s being like a big. This was like post The Bodyguard, so I was just like the biggest Kevin Costner fangirl. But so I would watch that man trek across a desert, a post-apocalyptic desert, in a film. But I will not watch him in this goofy ass movie. I'm sorry. No, just Insurrection, please.
Adam.
All right, so this is tricky because Waterworld is not great, but it's the movie that won't die. Our faction mate is currently working in the show at Universal.
He is.
And it's just like the fact that is more successful as a show at a theme park than it ever was as a movie is so hilarious. I think that is the unique legacy of Waterworld. But the people who stand this movie stand it hard. It's Mad Max at sea, if you will. It's fun.
Really good description.
Yeah, and honestly, for me, the thing that makes this movie memorable is Dennis Hopper, because he is a pirate, and I like that part of it. I like all the weird swings in Waterworld. I like that Kevin Costner has gills.
Because I haven't got it.
It's okay. It's okay, Jacob. I believe in you. I believe in you. But Waterworld is not great. It's way too long. The thing about Star Trek Insurrection is it does all the fun, weird next-gen things. Like you have a literally like sort of amorphous villain who's just constantly like going through different phases of like plastic surgery and stuff. And I like that it makes those reaches. These are and Insurrection's kind of like people are hard on that one sometimes compared to like First Contact, but I think Insurrection is one of the better next gen movies. Like I'd say for me it'd probably go First Contact, Insurrection, Generations, and then Nemesis in terms of ranking. So I think Insurrection's a lot of fun. And it's a bit more efficient than Waterworld. So I'll go with Insurrection on this one. But I just wanted to acknowledge that Waterworld, it's got some stuff.
Jesse.
Okay. I like that Adam said that this Insurrection's not the worst. It's kind of, upper middle of the road of the next generation films. And, for that, let's say worst case scenario, you're looking at Patrick Stewart on his worst day or Kevin Costner on his worst day. Who would you rather watch? For me, it's Patrick Stewart any day of the week. But Waterworld's bad. It's really bad, actually. And I think just on principle, I have to vote for Star Trek because at least you're getting some of the characters that you know and you have an investment in, and ones that you've traveled with and the ones that you've boldly gone with for many years. And Waterworld's something where you get to leave these characters in the film, and I don't feel like they carry with you for the rest of your lives. And so just based on impact alone, I guess, I'll go with Insurrection.
Robert? Oh, you're muted.
Bad words and cusses and swears that you didn't hear there that I said out loud. I think Waterworld is one of the most boring, just watch it go by movies in this category this year. It's fine. It's not offensive. It's just okay. And unmemorable and okay is maybe worse than being bad. I just think it's just fine. Whereas Insurrection is horrid. It's really, really bad, but it's really, really memorable. Like there are very few things in Insurrection that you will forget. Like you will never forget an officer being murdered by a freight stretching machine, or the Enterprise being like essentially spawned in, like warped in by some random ass laser. Like it is exciting. Like Adam said, it is as pure of Next Generation TV show as you can get. It is the most pure Next Generation film, even more than First Contact. It is the most pure Next Generation movie. It's fucking wacky as hell. It's terrible. It's not good, but it's fun. And Waterworld has zero energy, and it is just, God, I hate it. It's just so fucking boring. So Insurrection for sure.
Taylor.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep this short. It's Insurrection. I'd rather watch Insurrection any day of the week.
All right, guys, we did it. We made it through. Insurrection makes it through, guys. We are 1 week away from the entire first round of the bracket being completed. I am genuinely impressed.
What movies do we got?
All right, who's
left?
ready for next week?
What's
This
left?
is all that is left.
Oh my god.
The Crow City of Angels. Oh.
Aquaman, Batman Begins, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Blade 2, Captain America, The First Avenger, 2011's Conan the Barbarian, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, Iron Man, John Carter, Logan, Planet of the Apes, the original, Polar, Predator, RoboCop, the 2014 version, Star Trek 09, Star Trek The Final Frontier, Star Trek Generations, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars Return of the Jedi, Strange Magic, Supergirl, The Adventures of Tintin, The Incredibles, The Lego Batman Movie, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, Thor, The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, Transformers the movie, Transformers 07, Willow, and Wonder Woman.
Adam, it's all worth it. So
We're
Adam
taking
can talk
Willow
about
to the
Willow.
end of this bracket.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
There's
Go back to
all
the
right,
beginning, Adam, I'm
Robert,
sorry.
we're gonna have words.
all right. I'm gonna give you guys.
I don't think I'll be
them.
on next week. So good luck.
I'm going to give you guys a few of them. There's some I will not be showing because I'm waiting for next week.
All right.
All right.
What do we got?
I mean,
Secrets of the Unicorn. What? Wait,
Okay.
go back. What the hell is this?
That's the
it's the
Wait,
subtitle.
that's the subtitle.
Because they were supposed to make a sequel that didn't end up getting greenlit. but that's
the subtitle of.
I've never
of the
seen
person.
Secrets of the Unicorn anywhere.
Because
Is
it's in
that
the
just me?
tiniest font imaginable on a poster.
It's
Like, you
it's
gotta
the
check it out. It's
subtitle.
I think we've
it's-
just blown out of mind. I think he's.
No,
I
yeah,
think
because,
he's broken.
because the title says
All right,
Adventures
keep
of
going,
Tintin.
keep going. We'll talk
And it
offline.
says- and then
All
it
right.
says Secrets of the Unicorn.
I think this is a
Alright.
bunch of horse shit, but let's keep going. All right.
It's weird.
What the fuck is that?
Wonder
That's a
Women.
victory. That's all. Yeah, that's.
Oh,
a-
is that
the
the
asylum?
fuck?
Is that the asylum version?
Oh my god! Let me on for that fight. Let me on for that fight too.
What's the last one you're gonna give?
It's Willow versus Return of the King. Adam, I'm sorry.
Adam, I like you, but I'll punch you in the face.
Everyone, look.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Oh.
I'll give you this. I'll give you the Willow one. There you go. You can feel better about Willow.
Oh, good. I mean, fuck Willow, but yeah. fine.
No.
Oh.
And Willow is way better than Secrets of the Unicorn or whatever the hell that was.
All right, guys. This was a lot of fun. We got through it. Thank you for what was the chaos episode. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Next week is gonna hurt. I'm just fair warning everybody. Next week is going to hurt. So be prepared. The last matchup is, I think, easily the hardest matchup out of the entire bracket.
Oh, shut up.
I personally think. And it's going to be the one that gets me screamed at. So,
That'll be fun.
yeah.
It'll be a fun time.
So, until then, guys, we will see you next week.
Everyone's links will be in the description.
Everyone's link is down in the description below. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. This was a lot of fun. And we will see you guys right here on the channel next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Hello.